real fancy cars on impress me. I've been there, done that, Fairfax, rockets like Carlitos, where your niggas is fake. Cousin.
Oh.
No love, that's what I get, huh? Walter was a crackhead, always a crackhead. Remember when he owed money to those Haitian guys in more 90s and they know me. I'm trying to shoot you with a 12-gauge shorty, that's what you told me. I came to Montreal to see if you bitch you. Never judge you for working hard, told you I used to sell that. That's crap, your family member.
They're competing a lot from, with my husband. So now we rarely have time to date each other without their kids. Whenever there's like a dining out or go to a park, we have to go in, four together. Four of us, we have to go together. So it's more like a team, no longer like a affection towards each other between us. So I was wondering when romance can revisit time later,
Well,
Yeah.
we would want to talk more, but unfortunately, that topic brings us to the end of today's show. From the entire Project Lab team, we would like to thank you for joining, and we look forward to coming back to tomorrow and the day after to talk more about China and beyond.
That's right. Also find us on Facebook by keywords because Emily, welcome to leave us a opinion there. Taking us out of today's show is tomorrow I'm going to narrate by show.
I'm Melania Koa. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
First and they turned into I don't know what the fuck. Made by cousin love in my head. Must have been y'all. Come on, y'all. Just
Well, that wraps up this edition of Chinese Studio.
That's right, so go home and tell your loved ones these messages.
Okay, well, we might as well ask them how to say, what's for dinner tonight? And also check on the website, CRIEnglish.com, and click on Learn Chinese. 明天见。
明天见。
We got be on 846 because otherwise the show changes. The first 5 minutes.
Limited videos, photos,
What
and
time is it?
tutorials on
It's
expressions
4.
in
It's not
Chinese
5. It's
culture.
4. Okay.
CRI Learn
So
Chinese
hour
Facebook
is
page.
up.
The world opens with.
Oh, University of Toronto working on marijuana medicine for the lung inflammation from COVID. Nobody copies me. Can't be a real me. I'm a medicine bag man.
Latest data shows shipments of 5G phones accounted for more than 61% of the country's total mobile phone shipments in June, up from 46% in May. China saw the rollout of 105 new 5G models in the first half of the year, with total shipments at 63.6 million units. Analysts say China is back to see the first wave of 5G consumption boom as gadgets powered by the next generation communication technology become the mainstream. Authorities say China will quicken the development of 5G network construction, with more than 600,000 5G base stations expected to be built nationwide by the end of 2020.
What guy, bro?
East China's Zhejiang province has launched a construction project of new infrastructure. The province will invest nearly 1 trillion yuan in the new infrastructure construction, including building more than 120,000 5G base stations and 25 large and super large cloud data centers by 2022. The project will help realize full coverage of 5G signals in areas above the township level by 2022. Afghan officials say at least 12 police and 4 civilians are dead following Taliban attacks. 11 insurgents also died in the attacks in 2 northern provinces Sunday night. The provinces of Kunduz and Badakhshan have been the scene of heavy clashes between Taliban and security forces for years. Since the signing of a peace agreement between Taliban and the U.S. in February, Afghan leaders have frequently demanded the Taliban to reduce violence. The militants, however, have intensified attacks.
Who demanded them to reduce?
17 sailors and 4 civilians have been injured in a fire on board a U.S. Navy ship in California.
Yeah,
USS Bonomi Bouchard was undergoing maintenance at Naval Base San Diego. About 160 sailors were on board when a fire was reported. The injured have been hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Firefighters are still trying to put out the blaze. The cause of the fire is under investigation. The World Health Organization representative in Russia says the novel coronavirus could have existed in an inactive state long before its outbreak. Melita Vachnovich says the virus lived in animals and passed to humans at some point, but it's hard to say when and where the passing happened. She adds that the WHO has established a team to work with a Chinese scientist to analyze the origin of the virus. Spanish virologists have discovered traces of the virus in a sample of Barcelona wastewater collected in March last year, 9 months before the COVID-19 outbreak in China.
Somebody ate a bat.
An exit poll shows that Poland's incumbent president holds a slim lead in a tight race after a runoff election on Saturday. The exit poll by Ipsos Institute showed Andrzej Duda ahead with 50.4% of the votes and his opponent with 49.6%. The difference between the two candidates is within the poll's margin of error of plus or minus 2 percentage points.
No, it's not, because it's 5%.
China has raised its flood response alert to the second highest grade as downpours continue to batter regions along the Yangtze River. In Jiangxi, water levels in Poyang Lake have surged above 22.5 meters. So far, over 200 rivers nationwide have exceeded alert levels, including 19 of them rising to historical highs. Central authorities have allocated over 300 million yuan, roughly $44 million for disaster relief in flood-hit regions.
54-1 would still be 4-2,
authorities say that a deadly bus crash in Guizhou last week was intentional. The tragedy happened when the bus smashed through a guardrail and fell into a reservoir in Anshan. 21 people were killed and 15 others were injured. Authorities say the driver deliberately crashed the bus in an act of personal resentment. An autopsy also shows high levels of alcohol in the driver's body. The bus has been salvaged out of the lake. A survey shows that a majority of Chinese citizens are positive about future income growth despite pressure from COVID-19. Over 80% of the survey respondents are either optimistic or neutral about the likelihood of increased income in the next 1 or 2 years. Many of them say they will increase their savings to counter the economic impact of the pandemic. About 40% say will consider investments and wealth management products.
And that's money, you're going to save more.
Capturing images of people across China, exploring its ever-changing lifestyles, and feeling the heartbeat of its villages, towns, and cities. This is Selfie. This is Selfie, giving you real-life stories in China.
Oh, it's the wrong station, too. Damn it. That's 1008. This is 846. Okay.
Personal resentment. An autopsy also shows high levels of alcohol in the driver's body. The bus has been salvaged out of the lake. A survey shows that a majority of Chinese citizens are positive about future income growth despite pressure from COVID-19. Over 80% of the survey respondents are either optimistic or neutral about the likelihood of increased income in the next 1 or 2 years. Many of them say they will increase their savings to counter the economic impact of the pandemic. About 40% say will consider investments and wealth management products. And that's the news this week.
Capturing images of people across China, exploring its ever-changing lifestyles, and feeling the heartbeat of its villages, towns, and cities. This is Selfie. This is Selfie, giving you real-life stories in China.
I do think COVID-19 helped me to know China or Chinese or Wuhan city better, to make me notice people are living different sort of life.
You don't understand how this dynasty shit works. Like army ants will line up and make a bridge across water, and they lay side to middle leg, side to side, front and back, front to back, and they will just stay there till they drown, so the other ants can be a bridge, go over the bridge. China's the same goddamn way.
I see how people are not well educated.
This is our tragedy of our generation.
And I do think every single people, they need it. If you know it, you won't be so panicked.
Shut up, bitch. You're seriously gonna tell us that shit? I know, and now I know the country better thanks to COVID. You realize you're the only country in the world that's not dying from this shit. You shouldn't be bragging about how well you handled it. There's gonna be Chinese operas and shit about this while the rest of us are still dying. Oh yeah, the Chinese upper middle class, they got a million millionaires or some shit like that. Oh yeah, that's not a joke. Fucking. And then the upper class driving their Jaguars and Mercedes. Well, they don't drive them. Somebody else drives them for them. Going to the show. Look at all the... I'm emoting for all the poor people of the world, but I'm gonna stay in my bubble. Oh, for fuck's sakes.
Like a skagway. That's where I'm heading.
Hey, if I can't find my engine, sir, would you take me along with you?
Sure I would. I've got a team. You can ride the sled.
Okay, that's. Can you stop undoing what I'm doing? You fucking on. Swear to God, the machine second guesses me. No, it's not the machine. It's pussy boy fucking calling himself a hacker.
With the town and whatever we need to see.
Golly, I'd be glad to. I may have scars. By the way, sir,
It's either a boy pretending to be a girl,
Hey, Smith. Bill Smith.
or a grown man
You
pretending
know how
to
to
be
handle a team?
oh,
a
sure.
boy.
Right.
It's a witch.
You can.
It's disgusting. It's not part of the art. It's not part of the art. It's not skilled. It's just disgusting.
That's like mixing water with oil and crippling with their blood in that. Fuck this game shit. I just really want my brother back. I want that joy.
Trying to sell synthetic cannabinoids.
I want them bullets reversed that hit his brother's heart. When
I'm not saying your name.
to the head and immaculate ways. And we get friends, this ain't back in the day. 2017, I probably put some back in his face.
What I've got to say about you is not
the stage. I shoot it up and then I'll join the crowd. I'm not hitting shit while I'm running. Disassembling it out some sick shit. Take the springs out so we won't shoot in ballistics. And that's how you get away with charges on some stick shit.
Why would I say it,
I
man?
was raised with a savage. Absorbed with the savages. Never ran in my average kids. I only slapped back and stood tall. And this rap shit ain't the only way I put my hood on. Put my hood on with a black mask and a broken strap. Still bang 6 indented whips when I hold it back. Why I roll with that in these streets? There ain't no holding back. Gotta move, needing discreet, busting an older strap. I got 7 in that fifth like my block number. 17 in the clip for my blockbusters. I ain't gotta wait for my team. This ain't no blockbuster. My young boy was 14 when he shot something. 15 in that Beretta he bust. I stayed reppin'. I never changed my sweater in months. Even when I got knocked, nigga, I was reppin' the same. A week later, 10 bands just to get out the cage. Fake love, handshakes and hugs. There's 8 in the snub. That's 2 more than the 38 I gave to my cuz. And if you know me, you know that I've been real. Since I for you, I'm the block riding big wheels. But I'm a lot older on this block with the big steel. Peanut butter Glock left his brains on the windshield. Rock, paper, scissors,
like a windmill.
I 4-5 clip hang lower than the windshield.
Crime pace, so I'm outside with a nines wave. Dark clouds follow me everywhere I go. I'm hearing voices talking to me while I'm sleeping at night. Eyes open, can't move, ain't a person in sight. Premonitions and visions, you can see the red in my eyes like the red light underneath the black 45. How you got it on, but you ain't walking with it. It's like a pit bull locked in a cage. Truth through flesh when it bark after it bite. See the scene low key, quiet storm playing on the getaway. Roll a blunt to calm my nerves. Adrenaline still rushing through my veins. It was either me or him, so for that I couldn't complain. Simple message for you little niggas, better stay out the way. Test my arms, then I bear arms. It's only right. I do you niggas like they did King, cause of hell that the red light. You try to reach, then I'll beat it with the Mac. Broad day shooters, you know about us. In the West End, everybody heard about us. On that Master P, all my niggas about it. When you flame lit, niggas coming through the alley. Yellow tape on your strip, hella shells on the
And
floor.
remember the only
That's how
piece
my
of
niggas
slang
do
I
it
didn't
when it's
catch it
time
on
for
my
the war.
master.
So my niggas do it when it's time for the war, nigga.
DBB peso for dollars signs from the dollar. She's for the motherfucking grind, nigga. I don't think you understand me now.
All day, nigga.
So I thought I had like 60 seconds left. It's 3 minutes to get to that shit. It's the fucking round table with Lee Lang
It's
and
only allegations. If it was mine, it was in case they tried to run. No, 85 is what they asking, but I won't fight the thing. Got a little daughter to raise, so I'ma fight the case. When I got that phone call, man, I couldn't talk like Doc. You an angel, I wait in that wooden box. That's the vision I could never remove. And if I go, it's cause I'm dancing with the devil in the heavenly mood. That's like mixing water with oil and crippling with the blood in that. Fuck this game shit. I just really want my brother back. I want that joy put back in his mother's heart. I want the bullets reversed that hit his brother's heart. When I back the ratchet, they had him acting in ways. And we ain't friends, this ain't back in the day. It's 2017, I probably put the map to his face. Fuck these shows, I'm strapped back to back to the stage. I'll shoot it up and then I'll join the crowd. I'm on his shit when I'm running, disassemble it, I'm so sick shit. Take the springs
in
up,
Toronto, that's a government job here around there.
get away with charges on some stick shit. Yeah, I was raised with the savages. Grew up with them savages. Never ran in my average kicks. I only slapped back and stood tall. And this rap shit ain't the only way I put my hood on. Put my hood on with a black mask and a broken strap. Still bank 6 and dented whips when I hold it back. While I roll it back in these streets, there ain't no holding back. Gotta move, needed the street bustin' and hold the strap. I got 7 in that fifth like my block number. 17 in the clip for my blockbusters. I ain't gotta wait for my team. This ain't no blockbuster. My young boy was 14 when they shot something. 15 in that Beretta. I stay reppin'. I never changed my sweater in months. Even when I got knocked, nigga, I was reppin' the same. I'll get laid in 10 bands just to get off the cage. Fake love, handshakes and hugs. There's 8 in the snow. That's 2 more than the 38 I gave to my cuz. And if you know me, you know that I've been real. Since a little you, I'm the block riding big wheels. But I'm a lot older on this block with the big steel. Peanut butter Glock left his brains on the windshield. Rock, paper, scissors, spin kick like a windmill. I 4-5 clip hang lower than the windshield.
Say crime pace, so I'm outside with a nines wave. Dark clouds follow me everywhere I go. I'm hearing voices talking to me while I'm sleeping at night. Eyes open, can't move, ain't a person in sight. Premonitions and visions, you can see the red in my eyes like the red light underneath the black 45. How you got it on,
and the
but you ain't walking
traders.
with it.
You
It's
guys
like
sound
a
like
pit
you're
bull
sucking
locked in a
dick when you
cage.
say those. They don't mean
Flesh
nothing.
when it bark
Oh, it's
after it
code
bite.
word.
See the scene
It's
low
not
key,
code for
quiet
shit,
storm
'cause I know
playing
what
on
you
the
said.
getaway. Roll a blunt to calm my nerves. Adrenaline still rushing through my veins. It was either me or him, so for that I couldn't complain. Simple message for you little niggas, better stay out the way. Test my arms, then I bear arms. It's only right. I do you niggas like they did King, cause of hell that this red light.
Whatever
You try
touches
to
me
reach,
today
then
is
I'll leave it
dying,
with the
man.
Mac.
Fuck off. You got extra legs, good, go eat some
In the
shit.
West End, everybody heard about it. On that Master P, all my niggas about it. When your flame lit, niggas coming through the alley. Yellow tape on your strip, hella shells on the floor.
That is
How my
white
niggas do
people.
it when it's time
You
for
have to
the
let me
war.
touch you. No, I don't. Yeah, I'm back. I'm gonna repeat myself again. You're all fucking child molesters. Hey, I've met a million of you. Every single one of you tried to touch me. And every single one of you I put my hands on called the cops. And the cops told you too bad. So, you need to shut up. You're all child molesters. Go watch somebody else, Christian. It's 4:16 in the morning. The one in the blood and the blood and the Yo, this one, he just got finger fucked, bro. Fitness. Why is there no night mode on this? Oh, but it'll decide when it's morning and night automatically when it's reading.
I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop. I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop. I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop. I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop.
By the way, if you have this B19 shit, don't scratch with this.
I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop. I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop. I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop. I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop.
There's no rappers called Santa Claus. You got an entourage, you got bling, money, they got presents for everybody, it's the same thing, isn't it? What is in my bag? I swear to God, everything that touches me today is down. Everything.
I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop. I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop. I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop. I'm just chilling with my boys and I can hear it so whoop, so whoop, so whoop. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Yo, I'm coming straight from the West End. Move from the J to the West End. Watch how you talk when you walk through my hood, cause you know that my niggas be pressed in. Happy artillery weapons. Ain't really into the questions. I ain't condoning no violence. These youngins are wildin', they move kinda reckless. Got the keys, police stay patting niggas, stay cheese. A familiar face taxing niggas, safety. Didn't even wanna slap the nigga, he made me. Ain't nobody telling me nothing. I knew from a youngin' that I be the one I hit stuntin'. Now all of these rappers is bugging. You live in the burbs and you act like you came up from nothing.
Shout out to my niggas on the plaza. Lane to connection, Southside Gaza. When I roll my backwood, better have grabber. Never leave the house without my iPhone charger. Wallahi, my Molly's a rocker. Abdi Muhammad Mustafa. African man, that's my barber. Jamaican man, that's my shot. Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. These rappers, they lie in the booth. Lie in the booth. What's then got the realest? Just look at the proof. I'm living proof. The city's so litty cause we got the juice. We got the juice. Said we got the juice. I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? Been strict, jungle to the Rex, we deep. I can tell a West End nigga by the way you speak, Birds tripping loud in the hood, I always lose they beaks. Know that shotty with bodies got Dr. The West End G.
How many shootings happened last night?
I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Yo, I'm coming straight from the West End. Move from the Jane to the West End. Watch how you talk when you walk through my hood, cause you know that my niggas be pressing. Heavy artillery weapons. Ain't really into the questions. I ain't condoning no violence. These youngins are wildin', they move kinda reckless. Got the keys, police stay patting niggas. Stay cheese, a familiar face taxing niggas. Safety, didn't even wanna slap the nigga, he made me. Ain't nobody telling me nothing. I knew from a youngin' that I be the one that hit something. Now all of these rappers is bugging. You live in the birds and you act like you came up from nothing. Shout out to my niggas on the plaza. Lane to connection, Southside Gaza. When I roll my backwood, better have grabber. Never leave the house without my iPhone charger. Wallahi, my Molly's a rocker. Abdi Muhammad Mustafa. African man, that's my barber. Jamaican man, that's my shot. Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. These rappers, they lie in the booth. Lie in the booth. What's then got the realest? Just look at the proof. I'm living proof. The city's so litty cause we got the juice. We got the juice. So we got the juice. I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? Been strict, jungle to the Rex, we deep. I can tell a West End nigga by the way you speak, Birds tripping loud in the hood, always lose they beaks. Know that shotty with bodies got dumped in the creek. Stop, freeze, boy, them ain't looking for me. The chick I got that degree, what do you mean? Bitch, you don't know what I seen. Bitch, you ain't been on the scene. Record is clean, I'm too wavy. Man, cause your man wanna date me. I got the sauce, gravy. More than they cannot replace me. Cause I'm from the West End. Bitch, nigga, better watch that top. I'm fine, now you top to the top. So when it turn hot on your block. I'm from the West End. So you claim you a bad man, but gal, what a bad gal crew. Let me show you what a bad gal do. But you didn't know that I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying?
Sorry, officer, I don't understand, officer. I don't understand. I need another hand. I don't understand, officer. I don't understand.
You hear that? You smell that? Watch your mouth. Watch your motherfucking mouth. Yeah, bitch, you heard. That's what I said. Watch your motherfucking mouth.
And,
West End.
I'm gonna get fat boy today.
I'm from the
already got a
West
split
End.
up on his nose. I'm gonna cut up
Nigga,
his
what you
fur.
saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Yo, I'm coming straight from the West End. Move from the Jane to the West End. Watch how you talk when you walk through my hood, cause you know that my niggas be pressed in. Heavy artillery weapons. Ain't really into the questions. I ain't condoning no violence. These youngins are wildin', they move kinda reckless. Got the keys, police stay patting niggas, stay cheese. A familiar face taxing nigga, safety. Didn't even wanna slap the nigga, he made me. Ain't nobody telling me nothing. I knew from a youngin' that I be the one I hit stuntin'. Now all of these rappers is bugging. You live in the birds and you act like you came up from nothing. Shout out to my niggas on the plaza. Lane to connections, Southside Gaza. When I roll my backwood, better have rubber. Never leave the house without my iPhone charger. Wallahi, my Molly's a rob ya. Abdi Muhammad Mustafa. African man, that's my barber. Jamaican man, that's my shopper. Tell him the truth. Tell them the truth. These rappers, they lying in the booth. Lie in the booth. What's that got the realest? Just look at the proof. I'm living proof. The city's so litty cause we got the juice. We got the juice. So we got the juice. I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? Bin Street, jungle to the Rex we deep. I can tell a West End nigga by the way you speak, Birds chirping loud in the hood, always lose they beaks. Know that shotty with bodies got dumped in the creek. Stop, freeze, what I mean looking for me. The chick I got that degree, what do you mean? Bitch, you don't know what I seen. Bitch, you ain't been on the scene. Record is clean, I'm too wavy. Man, cause your men wanna date me. I got the sauce, gravy. More than they cannot replace me. Cause I'm from the West End.
I hope that Punjabi
Bitch,
girl is
nigga, better
dead.
watch that
I
time.
hope I
Find
hear
out
that
you top
she's
to the
gonna
cops, go
rap
when the
my
turn
ass
hot on your
off.
block. I'm from the West End. So they claim you a bad man.
She don't got bust the fuck up
Show you
like
what a bad gal do, but you didn't know that. I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End.
You don't
What you
run
saying?
nothing.
I'm from the West
Remember that
End.
is something.
I'm from the West End.
To everybody but
What you
me.
saying?
I got a Rizla full of niggas.
The West End City. I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Yo, I'm coming straight from the West End. Move from the Jane to the West End. Watch how you talk when you walk through my hood, cause you know that my niggas be pressed in. Heavy artillery weapons. Ain't really into the questions. I ain't condoning no violence. These youngins are wildin', they move kinda reckless. Got the keys, police stay patting niggas, stay cheese. A familiar face taxing nigga, safety. Didn't even wanna slap the nigga, he made me. Ain't nobody telling me nothing. I knew from a youngin' that I be the one I hit stuntin'. Now all of these rappers is bugging. You live in the birds and you act like you came up from nothing. Shout out to my niggas on the plaza. Lane to connections, Southside Gaza. When I roll my backwood, better have rubber. Never leave the house without my iPhone charger. Wallahi, my Molly's a rob ya. Abdi Muhammad Mustafa. African man, that's my barber. Jamaican man, that's my shopper. Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. These rappers, they lying in the booth. Lie in the booth. What's that got the realest? Just look at the proof. I'm living proof. The city's so litty cause we got the juice. We got the juice. So we got the juice. I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm
Big
from the
motherfucker, hey, let me give it up a fight.
I'm from the West
Oh, what you
End.
gonna do? Bite me? No.
Nigga, what you saying? Fifth Street, jungle to the Rex, we deep. Rex, we deep. I
It's
can
the
tell
size
a
of a
West End
fucking
nigga by the
pea.
way you speak, by the way you speak. Birds chirping loud in the hood, always lose they beaks, lose they beaks.
You
Know
that
that
fat
shot in
living
the
off
body,
me.
stepped out in the creek. Stop, freeze. What I mean,
Right,
looking
it
for
ain't
me.
that fat no
Bitch, you
more.
got
I
that
put it
degree.
on a
What
weight
do you
loss
mean?
plan.
Bitch, you don't know what I
Like
see.
Pat,
Bitch, you
Lou
ain't been on the
Chitano,
scene. Record is clean.
whatever.
I'm too wavy. Nigga, you may wanna
Maybe his
date
name
me.
was Patrick
I got the
Kirill.
sauce, gravy.
Go to Pat
Woman, they
Pascal.
cannot replace me. 'Cause I'm from the
Go
West
Pass,
End.
Pass or something.
Bitch, nigga, better
Cow.
watch that top and find out you top to the cops. So when it turn hot, and
Even
you
cow makes more sense. You're
I'm from the West
mafiosi, right?
End. So you claim you a bad man, but
Pat,
y'all
why
wanna
they call you
back out
Pat?
crew. Let me show you what a back out do. But you didn't know that I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End.
Oh,
Nigga, what you
smell the
saying? I'm
mango.
from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying?
You cutting heads off. You worried if you cut from the same cloth. You was playing Game Boy, niggas was playing King
Real,
Gods.
but you
Niggas
can't
Millie
fake
rock on your
this
block
voice.
with a chain on just to get hit up, can't make it. Like Trayvon, just stay calm. Niggas got gang
Kidding.
on.
The
It's
camera
stuff
can't
top.
see
Metal
that.
like Crayons, turning them heat rays on. They paid on debts and purchase more. Like they only wanted
This
2
hole's
ounces
right
to
to the
purchase
middle of
for.
the
You know we
fucking
only
bill,
wanted new houses that's on the shore. But my lawyer gotta study evidence in the court. Two-door sport in the court, playing these greasy loops. After every time I shoot, that ski mask turn to a toque. Still running that nation of domination for Rook. P89 and that barrel slide is too cute. Hit up in the dome when they tried ducking. Still better than just standing there and trying nothing. Kill them little pups, I'm a G-dog. I have him in the streets playing leapfrog. American muscle over a Tesla. Pulling up the bulldog is burnt like a Presla. Let me tell you how I feel. You niggas ain't real. Nah, I shot at your food like a meal. Let me tell you how I feel. You niggas ain't real. I shot at your food like a meal.
Hold on, let me get some pimpin'. Fuck you think you're doing that? I pull up in a Buick, blasting this music. You know how we do it. Yeah. Like Montel Jordan and these Jordans. All these bitches is swarming. And still I ignore them. Yeah. Cause all these girls boring. Yeah. Anytime I come through, making girls get abortions. It's Charlie, you know me. Rolling in a Harley with Shorty.
I just hope you got the 40.
Let
20
me tell
niggas
you
in
what
dark clothing,
story
that's what we
about my father,
learning.
my
You should hear the
boss.
arrogant names these niggas were calling. And that bitch was on card. Before Asian or Dream, we had a battery dog. Fuck them up.
Remember that
Middle
my
fingers
boss was
collide.
so
Wait
scary.
with the
Next
blast
thing
and
you
block.
know,
Popping out of the car. I was asking them what's up with the top. Passerby's ass police, what's up with the chalk? Another body, just another day. You acting like you ain't even know the war was underway. That's when we hit you from a blind side. Sitting in the jail and even thinking how the time flies. Let me tell you how I felt. You niggas ain't real. Nah, I shot at your food like a meal. Let me tell you how I feel. You niggas ain't real. I shot at your food like a meal. I know that they were finished, they came with 3 rounds. Straight up out of G-Town, trains going eastbound. They used to talk about all these niggas, they know it's me now. Package get caught, cross the border, that's how we rebound. F4TG get brony. AR paisley, trade bars, we the hardest up in these streets now. You best not trespass here, baby, just keep out. We ain't fuck around with the steering if we gon' wheel out. You ain't got the metaphor, nigga, that's when that skill out. Big clock, big shot, knocking all of your teeth out. By now you know they all got heat. They got no parts, but all got beats. Trap music.
From the Red Cross, Ultraviolet, me and my niggas are ultraviolet.
Nah, they couldn't just start sick, like, you know?
Free up the youth, man.
See?
Free sick, free kilo, free John,
See? Merchant
free
YG.
OG.
Court, nigga.
Go hard,
Lick
Kilo
your
on
dick.
this one.
Hey, young black boys, where baby?
All these fuck niggas really talking niggas sick. See me on the strip, they ain't walking with a stick. Hit him in the rib, now we living in the dirt. Stupid gassy bitch, yeah, she moving like she sick. Nigga double M, yeah, she called her on the shit. Drop the body, don't bitch, she was sick, fly you. You sip, feel street bitch, she would fly you. You watch your man get done in, try to line me. Hit me with a hammer, shit got grimy. You a lying bitch, you a thought, you slimy. All them lies you saying, we ain't buying. Talking about he was in my arms, I was crying. You a stupid goof, you were in stations. Talking to the cops now, bitch, you were basic. Fly high Dustin, now he's a skeleton. Shouldn't try to kill me now, bitch, he's a gas pack. He was in your basement smoking that crack on all their heads. It's your turn to illin. Talking buddies come to get me, bitch, are you illin? If you come to Regent Park, lady, you be missing. Toss him in the river, he's swimming with the fishes. Should've shut your mouth, you're part of the disses. Now it's on to live, you a ugly bitch. We know your coochie stinks. You something talk, it's my tea money. All for the links, all for the club. You should've took another one. Little nigga, should've smoked a sauerkraut. But last but not least, you think you're free? It's on to Britney.
I got a tagline in the paper
You
roll.
don't run up in your house, kick you out like Pop Smoke. Then we back trapping, yeah, we on the road. Fuck niggas. If you sick, respond. If you not, shut your fucking mouth. Young block boys are bad.
The life that I live, man. That's what TG Yeah. I speak what I fucking want, I say what I fucking want, man. Yo, my blood type is straight killer nigga running this house. Kidnap a faggot ass nigga who be running his mouth. It's the 7th letter, LOC, and the 11th letter. My twin is Henri, stay in your lane if you know it's better. Can't chase cause I'm stuck on some hot shit. Try fly past in the car, we shoot the glass in the cockpit. Then run up on you, see you walk, and leave you stretched out on the concrete like you hugging the floor. I'm a thug nigga, hair still nappy, pants still baggy, and keep it strapped in case niggas try to get at me. Fuck I look like, shooting fair ones and fist fighting. I smoke too many cigarettes, nigga, I'd rather light them. Cause I ain't got the lungs for that sweaty shit. Hard on a slap down your bitch on some petty shit. Real talk, ain't with the back and forth shit, I let my steel tag. Fully loaded whip, battleship like it's Bismarck. Lock you done did it again, fuck a one shot. You know me, I'd rather hit you and your friend. For that stick top, you gotta get it 2 times more. Now I don't rip the 6, this ain't 2 plus 4. I'm all about the war, cause revenge would be so sweet. On the streets with the street sweep against the so sweet. One to your skull, motherfucker, make your dome leak. 30 on their hip, through the sweater, see the pole peak. Cops on your body in the bushes on your cold street. You niggas already know who I am. Feeling like Deuce man, how I don't got pan. We the type to just hop on the van. Got enough in the clip to hit you and your man. Yeah. Wow, rap nigga, that's a rap nigga. F-O-T-G nigga. So I say what I want, nigga. Gotta power come check.
And when we done, we come back again. The name, you're not fucking coming in. You lost space.
Walk around, holla.
Oh, I can't believe at least I know it's wrong. It's not like I'm sitting here wondering, oh, why is it here? No, I heard something. Not random holes. Random pain. It's very specific pain.
Check it. Yo. Don't give me 10 seconds to battle you back, bitch. I'll leave you in the caskets, using my lips, cause I'm for a murder, but you heard of me before. Never let go of the second snap, keeping it in store. I'ma keep it on lock, my lips locked like a clock. I pop shots out my tongue and I'ma leave your head shot. I laceration off the throat from the mic cord. You wanna come at me and claiming that you're hardcore. I battle rap and victimize you fucking whack MCs. So don't come at me cause I'm like a venereal disease. Leave you sicking like the clap from Eddie gonorrhea. You don't wanna fuck with this shit because I'll see you to your deathbed. Off the shit that I said, off the shit that I spit off my head. Leaving you a dread, locked like the hairstyle. While I stay so fire with my profile. I mean I lock it up down with my cerebral. But all you and your people been acting like you so evil. But you ain't bad at all. You need a slap across the jaw.
Look at this, standing up.
Claiming shit that you ain't never done before. You're claiming that you got me and gritty and hardcore and roll. But I think that you learned hardcore with care bands. And I don't care, man, cause I don't really play fair. I'm here to battle you. Start a cipher and spark it. Or else I'm gonna have to jack you up and rob your pockets. Rob your wallet. Don't know what you want to call it, being a victimizing game. When this team is how we stall it. We stalled it on the streets and invading the homes and kicking out fucking laws and putting guns to the domes. I'm a hypocritical cat who used to stuff packs. Now I slang crack. No, I don't slang crack because I'm hypocritical because I said it was so bad. Now I'm sitting here and I'm acting oh so mad, but I'm oh so glad. At the same time, my brothers be making money, but it gets off the packs and that ain't damn funny. Seen the rig up in the fucking yard. Seeing people run the play. Oh my god, like what we gonna do? Our kids be getting stabbed up. Age of 12, like yo, let's get this cash up. And get this cash up and take them out. Cause we need to band together and get the fakes out. The negativity's the life for helping me focus on everything else, not the positive. So let's go on and just flow. I'ma keep it on the mic, just flow. And I'ma keep it on the mic and just flow. And I'ma keep it on the mic. All your fake ass slurs of life, and let's go. I'ma keep it on the mic. And I'ma keep it on the mic and just go. And I'ma keep it on the mic.
Yeah, shot it from the DJ's Part 2, but 1995, you know what I'm saying?
Hey. Yeah.
Got it for the low, got it for the low. What you really do, I got all the snow. Come right off the boat, come right off the boat. Come right off the boat, come right off the boat. This year you already know. I feel like I've been the GOAT. I know I can hold my own. I know I can hold my own. All I know the crime pay. I'ma get it one day. I'm cruising down the highway. All I know the crime pay. Get them on the 5-way. I'm cruising down the highway. I'ma get it one day.
Yeah, they talking, but they never lived it. I've been gunning for them 7 digits. Came back with a better vision. I ain't never switching. I'ma get the chicken. Crime pays, that's my way. Try to tell them, but they never listen. Fuck the ops, fuck the cops. I'ma make a millions when a Merry Christmas. I've been on it since Dipset. How they wanna get their lips wet. All these bitches used to try to swear me. Now I'm flexing on them with this pimp set.
All I know the crime pay. I'ma get it one day. I'm cruising down
Terminator, they killed the black guy.
all I know the crime pay. Get them on the 5-way. I'm cruising down the highway.
Oh, but you like that movie Toto, I said that.
I'ma get it.
Oh, he was a hero. He was even at the end. He did good. Yeah, but he's still.
I'ma get it one day. I'm cruising down the highway.
The guy that created the robot dies. The robot lives. What the fuck? It comes back. No, see, that's not good because he's black. That's all it's about. In Asia, they would presume the black would be like the dark side, the dark arts, and he's gonna come back again. And he just doesn't. What the fuck?
I can't sleep, these nightmares
Like this kind of movie.
gotta keep both hands on the wheel.
You kidding, right? 4:47 in the morning is a fucking bug. Somebody don't open till 5:30, 6 o'clock. You taking the bus too? Don't go nowhere yet.
Yo. Yeah.
It's an 8.5 liter turbo diesel 6 speed semi-automatic with the top 2 speeds about 90 tires only rated 95. It was a Recaro racing seat.
You hot too when you do your thing. We hot when we do our thing, so let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. Riding down 8th Street, truckers wanna hate me. Probably cause they see me sitting shoddy with they ladies. I'm fly, should've known better. Everybody know that I'm a real go-getter.
You imagine being on a Toronto streetcar at 110?
See you do your thing, baby girl, with them hips. You an angel in disguise.
Highway trucks are doing a 105.
We can get it on, girl. Come to my world, we can get the same poppin'. I'll show you things you never seen.
Built for that speed, and they're still falling apart. It's all parts everywhere.
Everybody know me. Only 21 and I'm a real OG. Yeah. Let me do my thing, I wanna hear you sing myself when I rap to it. Yeah. Took a break from the game, when saying now I'm back to it, back. Thinking about taking you home, me and you, shorty, yeah, finna get it on. I'm hot when I do my thing, you hot too when you do your thing. We hot when we do a thing, so let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. I wanna do my thing, she wanna do it. Up in the studio, bet I can make it sing. Real 6 represent a sense.
I didn't know I had nerve endings in here to tell me it was in here.
She fly too, and when it's time to ride, I know she gon' ride too. Why hide you? You a good girl. Roll with me, you be living in a good world. Thinking about taking you home, like the way you do that, baby girl, get it on. Girl, I put it on for my city man, and I'm a bad boy, like Diddy man. Girl, come get your game check. Swear over the moment, baby, I ain't giving rain checks. And I'm all about my game, man. Get famous, that's the one and only game plan. Thinking about taking you home, me and you, shorty, yeah, finna get it on. I'm hot when I do my thing. You hot too when you do your thing. We hot when we do a thing, so let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. Let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. Let's do a thing, baby girl, yeah, let's do a thing. Girl, you turn me up, girl, you turn me on, girl, you turn me up, girl, you turn me on.
I think all these movies they shoot up here, they should be required to use real police cars in them and they donate those police cars to the city. No, because then they're still a charity case, right? And then every other week, the police cars would be totally
Baby,
different.
let's get it. We already got it. Triple
Oh,
R
it'll say Detroit police. And the other one says Oakland.
Rapping my life. You do this once a month, I do this every day and every night. Girls take
We're dropping out of Toronto
like a
police uniform.
G6. Go hit the club till I'm bucked and I see six. Go meet some different women, go sip the drone. Go party till I feel like taking someone home. Thinking about taking you home. Me and you, shorty, yeah, finna get it on. I'm hot when I do my thing. You hot too when you do your thing. We hot when we do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl. Yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl. Yeah, let's do a thing. So let's do a thing, baby girl. Yeah, let's do a thing.
Sick cell, sickly cell, sickly swirl. Still, the more they show me lead. The nuclear grip of the left to bleed. The war. The numbers what you all got. You hear that? Do, 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 do. I know it's the very last second of the beat. It still gives me a psychotic reaction. I'm not pressing any buttons today.
Welcome to the Cousin C Show. Now sit your ass the fuck down and shut the fuck up. Get the gas mask. Get the gas mask.
Some things of this nature actually are using eyes less. You're saving your eyes, I guess you could say. I think you still have to be careful if you wear sunglasses because I guess too much sun exposure can also diminish your vision a little bit.
Yes, that's true. And another thing that I can think of is don't use your phone, use your smart gadgets in dark area during nights without a light on.
This woman says,
Yeah,
yes, that's true.
That's true. It's a hard one, and I myself do it
yes,
sometimes.
That's true.
I have to confess, but it's really, really bad for your eyes. If you're staring at your smartphone in a dark room, the contrast between the dark background and the bright screen of your phone would deeply hurt your eyes, and that damage would be permanent.
The sun is good for your eyes.
It makes me think about
when it's made in China.
That's pretty much what happens there, and I think that takes us to that place when we're on our phones watching a movie in the dark room.
Well,
they actually get a lot of leeway on this
movie theater.
Well, actually, I would argue that in a movie theater, it's actually better than staring at your phone, because your phone only has a small screen, which makes the huge background dark, and the small screen emits all the light, and they go directly to your eyes. But in studios or in movie theaters, the screen is so big, so that large amount of light go into your eyes, so your eyes won't feel the huge contrast between the really dark background and the one shiny point. So I would argue that theaters are better than staring at your phone in dark rooms.
I'm sure we can have a discussion on that at another time.
Yeah.
Not sure I agree with that one.
And actually, June the 6th, 2020 marks the 25th China National Eye Care Day. It is a day that all of us should love our eyes. And understand the importance of loving your eyes, of use your eyes in a healthful manner.
Just one day.
Not just one day. That is the day it's most, you should actively remind yourself of that. And for us, we work every weekdays, and it's very important to remember to maybe every hour stand up, look at somewhere else instead of the computer in front of you. Maybe have a walk. That is also a good way to protect your eyesight.
Remember, just using the CRT too. Look at if they make the
And
flat
that brings
screens,
us to the
everybody.
end of today's Takeaway Chinese. I'm Neil Honglin with
So those
Tony in the
wifey-
studio. For more episodes of the show, you can visit our website at chinaplus.cri.cn and go to the column Ni Hao. You can also listen to the show and read the script on our Easy FM app.
You can go to
There are
Facebook
also
and
3
randomly
podcast platforms for you to find us:
type in
Apple
words
Podcasts, SoundCloud, and
to your
Stitcher.
account
In
and then
case you'd like to
fucking
listen to
watch
some
this
previous
shit
shows,
tomorrow.
leave your thoughts, comments, and ratings.
感谢收听，我们下次再见。
再见。
Walking water, everybody knew he would. Written in the scriptures, told us who he could.
我要学汉语. I want to learn Chinese.
其实并不难 ，It can be fun。
光有饭 Chinese studio.
She says, yes, that's true. I have a fucking aneurysm.
Welcome to Chinese Studio. 我是 Raymond.
我是亚杰，We're having a great time.
Yes, and today we're going to teach you what to say to your loved one.
That's right. We're going to know how to do more about household talk.
Okay, here are the keywords of the day.
Keywords of the day:
Hey, Paul.
dinner, 晚饭 Honey, I'm home. 亲爱的，我回来了。What's for dinner tonight?
I'm
晚饭
always
吃
writing
什
cheap
么
fucking kung fu movies. in
Oh,
my
in
head.
today's Chinese studio.
Hong Kong, not Beijing. Hong Kong kung fu. Oh, you like
Well,
Hong
if
Kong
you
kung
have
fu?
loved
Yeah,
ones,
yeah.
you have to know how to greet them.
Cool. I have lots of loved ones,
Why
as
would
it is
you do that?
still the holidays.
Okay, Raymond, you should greet your loved ones like this. Honey, I'm
What's the
home.
same?
Yeah. How do you
What's
say that in
the devil?
Chinese?
Well, you can say, 亲爱的，我回来了。
Wow.
亲爱的，
Wow, wait,
我
wait.
回来了。
So, 亲爱的 is how you can call darling or honey in Chinese.
亲爱的，
我 the third tone, which means I.
That's real close to chin.
回来
That's
which means get
really
back.
surprisingly close.
了 is the completion of an action.
了。Okay, so I love that. How do you say darling or honey in Chinese?
亲爱的 Now you do it.
亲爱的，
Not bad. So, how do you say I'm home in Chinese?
回来。So how do you say that again? How do you say I'm back?
我回来了。
Honey, I'm home.
亲爱的，我回来了。亲爱的，我回来了。
亲爱的，我回来了。
You're listening to an elementary Chinese learning program, Chinese Studio, on China Radio International.
Okay, Yajie, you've got to learn a few things about how we should be talking sweeter with our loved ones.
How would you know, Raymond? You're a robot.
Thanks. You might as well call me a Cylon. Ha 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 ha.
Okay, well, let's say you're about to come home for dinner. What do you think you ask?
What's for dinner tonight?
Right, you men think with your stomach. That's how it is. And this is how you
Not
can say,
exactly that.
what's for dinner tonight in Chinese. 晚饭吃什么?
晚饭吃什么?
晚饭, the third tone and the fourth tone, which means dinner.
晚饭
吃, the first tone, which means to eat.
吃
什么?
Shut up.
The second tone and the light tone, which means what?
什么? So how do you say dinner?
晚饭
How about eat?
吃
And then what?
什么?
Let's say what's for dinner tonight, or literally dinner eat what?
In Chinese, you can say 晚饭吃什么?晚饭吃什么?
晚饭吃什么？
boy. You got that curry.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Chinese Studio.
That's right. So go home
It says
and tell your
CA
loved
on the
ones
fucking label. I
these
swear to God,
Which one?
CHIE.
Okay, well, we might as well ask them how to say what's for dinner tonight in Chinese. And also to check on the website crienglish.com and click on Learn
French is
Chinese.
an official
明天
language.
见
It's smart enough to learn French. I think it's Chinese. I'm sure it's done. It says CHIEN on the I've taken pictures and shit. No, I don't know what it means.
Join the most popular Chinese language learning page on Facebook by searching for CRI Learn Chinese. It's a quick yet fun way to achieve your language goals. Start your free lessons now with unlimited videos, photos, and text tutorials on expressions and Chinese culture. CRI Learn Chinese Facebook page.
How many of us are here? Facebook,
You're listening to China Plus Radio, connecting you with China and the world.
Sleeping tiger or something like that.
Now the news. I'm Sui. Latest data shows shipments of 5G phones reached over 17.5 million units in China last month. The figure accounted for more than 61% of the country's total mobile phone shipments in June, up from 46% in May. China saw the rollout of 105 new 5G models in the first half of the year, with total shipments at 63.6 million units. Analysts say China is expected to see the first wave of 5G consumption boom as gadgets powered by the next generation communication technology become the mainstream. Authorities say China will quicken the development of 5G network construction, with more than 600,000 5G base stations expected to be built nationwide by the end of 2020. East China's Zhejiang province has launched a construction project of new infrastructure. The province will invest nearly 1 trillion yuan in the new infrastructure construction, including building more than 120,000 5G base stations and 25 large and super large cloud data centers by 2022. The project will help realize full coverage of 5G signals in areas above the township level by 2022. Afghan officials say at least 12 police and 4 civilians are dead following Taliban attacks. 11 insurgents also died in the attacks in 2 northern provinces Sunday night. The provinces of Kunduz and Badakhshan have been the scene of heavy clashes between Taliban and security forces for years. Since the signing of a peace agreement between Taliban and the U.S. in February, Afghan leaders have frequently demanded the Taliban to reduce violence. The militants, however, have intensified attacks.
Yeah, they will.
17 sailors and 4 civilians have been injured in a fire on board a U.S. Navy ship in California. The USS Bonomi Richard was undergoing maintenance at Naval Base San Diego. About 160 sailors were on board when a fire was reported. The injured have been hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. Firefighters are still trying to put out the blaze. The cause of the fire is under investigation. The World Health Organization representative in Russia says the novel coronavirus could have existed in an inactive state long before its outbreak. Melita Vajnovich says the virus lived in animals and passed to humans at some point, but it's hard to say when and where the passing happened. She adds that the WHO has established a team to work with the Chinese scientists to analyze the origin of the virus. Spanish virologists have discovered traces of the virus in a sample of Barcelona wastewater collected in March last year, 9 months before the COVID-19 outbreak in China. An exit poll shows that Poland's incumbent president holds a slim lead in a tight race after a runoff election on Saturday. The exit poll by Ipsos Institute showed Andrzej Duda ahead with 50.4% of the votes and his opponent with 49.6%. The difference between the two candidates is within the poll's margin of error of plus or minus 2 percentage points.
Fucking Christ.
China has raised its flood response alert to the second highest grade as downpours continue to batter regions along the Yangtze River. In Jiangxi, water levels in Poyang Lake have surged above 22.5 meters. So far, over 200 rivers nationwide have exceeded alert levels, including 19 of them rising to historical highs. Central authorities have allocated over 300 million yuan, roughly $44 million for disaster relief in flood-hit regions. Local authorities say that a deadly bus crash in Guizhou last week was intentional. The tragedy happened when the bus smashed through a guardrail and fell into a reservoir in Anshun. 21 people were killed and 15 others were injured. Authorities say the driver deliberately crashed the bus in an act of personal resentment. An autopsy also shows high levels of alcohol in the driver's body. The bus has been salvaged out of the lake.
An act of personal resentment.
The survey shows that the majority of Chinese citizens are positive about future income growth despite pressure from COVID-19. Over 80% of the survey respondents are either optimistic or neutral about the likelihood of increased income in the next 1 or 2 years. Many of them say they will increase their savings to counter the economic impact of the pandemic. About 40% say will consider investments and wealth management.
See, the Chinese, to understand the concept of saving and investing, it's not the same thing. They're going to get rich off the savings. That's the way you're made. And when you're broke, you spend that money.
Welcome to Roundtable, coming to you live from Beijing.
Roundtable, connecting China and the world.
We bring you fun and timely discussions about what's affecting our lives everywhere, every day.
Tune in to Roundtable, where the East meets the West, and understanding is the goal.
Clear, it's echoing, it's stereo.
Insightful analysis, bold comments, friendly debates. Find all that and more on Roundtable.
What kind of bacon bets do you like on your
discussion and covers the hottest topics in China.
You know, everything Western. They give a fuck about baseball right now? No.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome to Roundtable, coming to you live from Beijing. I'm He Young, joined by Lai Ming and Patrick Flannery. Good as always to have you for this ride. We have some fascinating topics for discussion today and every day on today's program. A recent rally in the stock market in China has gotten people excited. Has the bull market officially arrived? Also on the menu, we're on a mission of starting your week with a motivational kick. Don't miss out on our most inspirational segment, Motivational Monday. You can find us on Apple Podcast at Roundtable China. Subscribe, rate, and review us. It will help other folks to find the show. But first, on today's Roundtable. The recent rally in China's equity markets is an uptick since 2015, the last time stocks value soared in China. The Shanghai Composite Index has gained nearly 15% this month alone. A bull market is a stock market that is favorable and rises in value, while a bear market means decline in
tigers and snakes.
Has a bull market officially arrived is what people are wondering. So let me direct this one of you first. Please give us an update since, you know, it's Monday today. And what's the overview of how the Chinese stock market is doing now?
So we are doing this now.
Monday's over in China.
Well, the Monday situation was Shanghai Composite Index opened down 0.12% at 3,379.39 points, while the Shenzhen Composite Index opened 0.2% higher at 13,699.22 points. The China Index gained 0.41% to open at 2,789.98 points. Non-ferrous metals stocks led the rise, with agriculture, forestry, animal husbandry and fishery, leisure services, commercial and trade, automobile, medicine and biology sectors leading the rise, while non-banking finance sectors led the decline. And banks, media, national defense and military industry, mining, food and beverage industries weakened. I hope I'm doing this right.
I could listen to you do this all day.
Thank you. But
it's quite good.
But it's something different from obviously what we have observed.
What he said, how he said that?
In the past few years. We know the latest thing, the last time we paid attention to the stock market was in 2015. That was when we had a market frenzy followed by a very sad meltdown. And I think people stopped talking about it for 5 years, did it? And in recent weeks, the market was already recovering. But nonetheless, according to some insider observation, back then,
China
a
dropped
lot
the
of the
deposit
attention
rate
for
actually from
investment was
20% to
going
18 or
into
some
those
shit like that back then.
defensive kind of investment, going to safe bets.
So it could be
So if medicine, well, we are in the midst of a pandemic there, so people were putting their money in where they think were safe. But nowadays, I think starting from last Monday,
even if you lose your
July
money,
the
you try.
6th, and we were seeing some more aggressive investment decisions made by investors. I mean, I think last week I read on Caixin, the magazine, that new individual investors are lining up both at the stock exchange, I suppose, or brokers, or online in the cyberspace. They're trying to register and they're trying to enter into the market. They're trying to seize the opportunity. So as a result, we saw, like Yang said, the Shanghai Composite Index, they essentially rallied by 15%, is it? Nearly 15%. And one thing that was quite impressive that I saw was that nearly more than 200 stocks, they actually reached a limit up. That's when they've climbed so high in a single day that the regulators have to call it off. They have to stop trading. So that was more than 200 stocks in one day on July the 6th. And the growth was not simply in one sector. I think, like I said earlier, there were a lot of sectors that were all going up. So it's unlike anything we've seen in many years.
Yeah, well, this is definitely an interesting time, I suppose, for investors, because for individual investors to actually try their hand, if I may use this word, in the stock market, as you know, it is very volatile and it's almost like gambling for, I guess, laymen, in the sense that, well, a lot of us are, and you simply just don't know where this is going. But is this a time to be optimistic if you're someone who is an individual investor
invest like the way you do everything, with someone else to do it for you.
Optimistic. Are we talking about the Chinese market or the U.S. stock market?
Let's talk about the Chinese first, and then you can share about the U.S.
Well, number one, and look, disclaimer: I'm not a financial expert. I don't know.
None of us are.
Yeah. Just putting that out there. But I mean, what immediately would hit me as a foreign investor, if I were one, would be the rapid turnaround of the COVID-19 situation in China. We know that it has been on the rebound for some time. It has taken a lot of precautionary measures to bring it under control initially, and we saw a bit of a resurgence in June and early July that is now sort of going away. And you know, when you have structure in place like that, I think it does give not only consumers confidence, but it gives the people who sort of sign the checks and offer up the cash a little more confidence, because we know if the virus is under control, people are getting outside again. They're going into places, they're spending money once again. Not that stops completely, because we have e-commerce, but people are rejuvenated, once they go back outside. And that's good.
That's definitely good news. But if it were also to look at what's happening around the world, and we see that the stock market is actually a very good place to be during even the global pandemic. And sometimes, haven't you checked out on, what, let's say, Wall Street is doing, and then thought, does the Wall Street read the news? Because on the one hand, it's almost like you see job losses, you see, and unfortunately in the US recently, we see that there has been an uptick of confirmed coronavirus cases again in some of the economies that's reopened, maybe arguably a little bit too hastily. And then on the other hand, you see the stock market going so well. So in that case, well, what explains?
Yeah. Well, the Asian markets are the first to open on the day, right? So first one's in the morning, Asia opens, and obviously the Western markets will often react to good or bad news on that. Not completely, but it helps or hinders it, as the case is. In the U.S., though, okay, so there is this sort of thing of, wow, there's no jobs, the economy's in the tank, 3.5 million people have COVID-19. Why is the stock market doing so well? Okay, well, that's because, and this is according to CNBC, and they did a nice breakdown of this today, and it was the job losses we're seeing. 4 million hotel and restaurant workers gone, 18 million unemployed completely, about 1.5 million retail workers have been sliced off the payroll. Those folks don't represent the Standard & Poor's 500 index. In other words, the big industry is IT. right? That is what affects
you know what S&P stands
the
for?
job market, or excuse me, the stock market, and what drives it. And there are not many job losses in that sector at all. So that's proliferating. The stuff we deal with day to day, the people in the restaurants, the hotels, and so on. Those are the ones who are obviously needing help and can't get it, but those jobs are not driving the big stock market. So that's a little bit of just the quick and dirty on that. It doesn't explain everything, but yeah, the market often overreacts when a recession hits and then rebounds again. I mean, there was obviously 9/11 in 2001, the big Wall Street crash in 2008, and here we are again with a pandemic-related outbreak that is, moving markets.
Yeah, there seems to be an explanation that's making sense. Like here in China, as people trying to make sense of this rally, there are contradicting opinions here. The optimists, they're looking at the relatively relaxed monetary policies that are driving household investments to household investment demand. So in other words, we're seeing all kinds of stimulus packages being rolled out. We're seeing maybe there are more money out there, and hopefully households are hoping to maybe hedge the inflation or maybe the CPI increase by investing in whatever means they have. And the stock market obviously is one way to do it. And the optimists are also looking at the rebound from the bottom of the economic cycle. Like I mentioned earlier, in 2015, we did have the meltdown, and therefore a lot of these promising companies that were listed were undervalued. They're hoping that this correction process will bring up the whole stock market, the valuation of it. And then they're also looking at reforms in the capital market that are sort of bringing some positive results. For instance, I think last year or the year before, we launched the Science Innovation Board, and that's when we experimented with the registration versus the approval kind of way. So previously, with A share market, you have to prove that you are a profitable company for like 3 years, and then you're handing the application, and the regulators will look into your information and decide whether or not you are a worthy member of the stock market. But with Science Innovation Board, they're experimenting with simply registration. So you're handing all the information. The regulators will only look at the authenticity of the information, whether or not you're making money, whether or not you're losing money. It's not going to affect the decision to let you be listed. And so there's an exit strategy that's involved with the registration strategy, the method. And therefore, the market is looking at positive changes, positive reforms being introduced to the whole stock market as a whole. So yeah, the optimists are looking at it this way, but pessimists are looking at it in a different way.
Let's hear them out.
Yeah, so they've been looking at COVID-19, and we are in a bit of a global pandemic here, and they're also looking at international politics. He said it in case you haven't noticed, there's been a few exchanges between China and U.S. in its bilateral relationships. So they're looking at these developments, and they're hoping to see some uncertainties in the latter half of the year. So these are pessimists. They're also looking at the recovery, the pace of recovery as compared to the recovery post-SARS and post-2008. And they're seeing that maybe the recovery right now is slower. And it's supposed to be slower, obviously, because China is the first country to be recovering from COVID-19, while the rest of the world are still in shambles. So it's going to be slower. Nonetheless, the pessimists are catching on this part of the reality, and they're being pessimist. And then they're also looking at the Q1 revenue of listed companies. So those already listed, I mean, they say that they already hit rock bottom in the first quarter, and they're still recovering. So there's not any time for them to sort of achieve rapid growth, even now in the second quarter or the third. So that's the pessimist opinion. So it's important to know that I'm not sure which part or which side has the better truth of it, but it is important for individual investors to be cautious and be careful about what they're getting into.
Yeah, definitely. And the stock market, it reflects what investors think about the future. I think these factors are really important here. The current economic data is kind of like looking through the rear view window, if I may say that. And it just seems like for the investors, maybe they do have a bit more confidence in the companies that are listed in the US or in China in that respect. And also, when you look at the Chinese stock market, some people are saying that it is because of sort of like the limited investment options that are available right now, that the money is not going into the housing market anymore like it had been in the last decade or couple of decades or so. And it's got to go somewhere. And it seems like now the stock market is the ideal place. And also another interesting thing here is about investor psychology. It's when the market is looking up, people sort of join in. And when the market is down, as in, let's say the last almost 5 years, I mean, the last time we talked about a bull's market, it was in early 2015 and pretty much ended in early 2016.
Okay. That went on for a year, not too bad.
Yeah, but it's so interesting now when you look at the indices because, gosh, it was going up and down. And the problem with the stock market is, I mean, there's fluctuation, and sometimes it goes down a little bit and up a little bit, and then down, down, down. But when you are in the streak of things, you don't understand that, oh, this is actually a downhill until you're too late in this. So I want to talk a little bit also about investor psychology. That is, I suppose, some people are thinking about, well, this is actually not a good question because we don't want to lead people into this, but let's just talk about what do you think the situation is like now. And there's just, and do you think it's going to go on for a little bit?
I honestly, I have no idea. For one thing, I'm not an expert in this, and I don't follow finance stories as closely as those in the profession. But nonetheless, from what I've read, this, which I think is quite reasonable, is some experts are saying that there's a contradiction between the amount of liquidity available right now, given the loose monetary policies, and the lack of recovery overall across the world. So we're going to see some kind of mismatch or some kind of clash between these two, and so it's really difficult for an expert even to tell what's going to be, and the best they can predict is something of a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, and also just looking at the number of newly opened accounts, it's really interesting to see that there has been more than 6 million new traders just in the 5 months of this year in this country. So it's really easy to fall into this kind of almost frenzy of some sort. Of course, there is, for the fear of missing out. It's almost like when you hear your neighbor has earned
you're Chinese and you do that with stuff.
The yuan's worth of, let's say, a brand new car, and then you feel like you've missed out on like 20 million. But that's not the case at all. But how do you fend for yourself and sort of stay sane when there's a lot of that buzz going on around you?
Well, in my personal opinion, I will look at the kind of loan that I already owe to the bank. So it's 1.5 million, and that's enough for me to know that I should be safe instead of risking it all. I mean, if it goes south, I mean, I gotta make sure that I can pay monthly mortgage.
Yeah. I mean, if we could all predict the stock market, I mean, we
wouldn't be sitting here.
Right. Well, we wouldn't have a stock market because we'd all be rich, and that's impossible. And we wouldn't have markets to determine wealth and so forth. But I mean, the International Monetary Fund and some of these other
we just randomly be calling each other up here.
Folks who are saying, well, the global economy is probably going to shrink by 5%. What does that really mean? How do you get your arms around it? It's a lot, right? Because it's affected the U.S., Europe,
and they got a
and Asia,
$1 billion a year economy.
I mean, it's the thing of, like Lai Ming said, you buy what you can afford right now. You don't take a lot of risks right now, but it doesn't mean you stop spending either. And an influx of cash into the economy is a good thing. Saving is a good thing, but it's sort of like, don't put it all away. You got to stop and smell the roses too. This is going to be a long ride, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, and also just, it's a big cliche, but it makes a lot of sense. That is, don't put your eggs in the same basket or something along those lines. But of course, for me, I sort of laugh at this quote because, first of all, I need to have enough eggs to, have that kind of arrangement. But what I would like to say is certainly don't sell your apartment to go into the stock market, okay? That's just crazy because we are talking about something that is very volatile. We don't know when this thing is going to end, where it's going to top. So I think risk aversion is definitely really important here. Yeah, nobody wants to gamble everything away.
Well, you just show that you are a layman to the stock market.
Oh, have
that
I?
Comment. Really, yeah.
What should the experts say then?
Well, the disaster that resulted from the 2015 meltdown partly was caused by the use of leverage. Back then, in 2015, people were borrowing money. Either from the banks, from banks, that would be a better end of the deal. And some of them were borrowing from brokers. I mean, remember, the stock market wasn't as well regulated as it is now, and Chinese authorities actually spent years trying to address the leverage problem. So back then, it was possible for, let's say, Huyang, you're an individual investor, and you see the market rally, and you want to be a part of it, but nonetheless, you only have 500 yuan. So that's what? That's enough for you to get half a unit of multi. So you don't have enough cash. You don't have enough ammunition. So what do? You borrow from the banks, and the banks they have regulations not to borrow, not to lend to you. So you work with brokers, and they will match you with, let's say, 9 times, 10 times the amount you have.
Invest money.
You essentially borrowing then at a cost of about 7 to 9% APR.
Yeah, it's as bad as crap.
That's not the most scary thing. I mean, as long as you make money, you can always pay it back. But when it goes down, when the market went into meltdown, you are in economic financial limbo. So that was the case, and you're also jeopardizing the health of the entire economy. So the authorities here in China that spent years to rectify this, and as a result, this year we're looking at the rally again, and we are looking at some kind of leveraging. But a lot of the brokers, the companies, they're saying that they've been extremely prudent about leveraging. So whereas maybe in 2015 they were looking at a couple of 100 million yuan in leveraging deals. This year, they're only looking at leveraging deals with 1/10 of it, so a couple of tens of millions of yuan. So that's one way to decipher or to look at the stock market, and also particularly the stock market reform. And one of the reasons why people are being optimistic in the rally this year, like I said earlier.
And doesn't that just showcase the important role that the regulatory government organs are playing in this? Because the individual investor has no way or chance or sway in, keeping the bigger investors, the securities companies that they invest in check in that regard. But let's say, with the 500 yuan that I have to invest, if I have, let's say, 5 times the 500 yuan, which is 2,050 yuan. I can do simple math, as I've proven. If I've got that sitting in my, let's say, insurance account, in my savings account, and that kind of thing, then I'm not severely affected, even if things go south. And that would not be the end of the world, let's say, even if things go badly. But let's say, okay, for the individual investors here in China, actually, there is an estimate that apparently about 11% of our assets sort of go into the financial markets, which is very little. And the Chinese stock market remains rather insulated and small compared to the global markets. And so,
it's not
but with the stock markets doing well, my question here is this just one of the other things we've seen during the global pandemic, that it's one of the things that will profit the wealthy, and things aren't completely equal for people living in front of a pandemic.
That's always the case, and it became even more crystal clear when we saw that the world's top 5 billionaires, or should I say the U.S.'s top 5 billionaires, and these are all tech guys, you know the names.
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, from Bezos to Zuckerberg, and who are the others? Warren Buffett, and so on.
He made tons of money.
Oh yeah, they saw their values skyrocket during COVID-19, and for different reasons. Like the richer you are, the easier it is to make more money. I guess philosophically would be the point. But without getting too into the weeds on that, we see how many people have gone bankrupt and lost their jobs, while at the same time these men are rising financially and otherwise. And I guess part of that can be attributed to the fact that people are still spending, and where do they shop? They go on Amazon.
You giving us
They're on
warnings?
Facebook, elsewhere. And some of these advertisers who have begun sort of pulling out of Facebook, we're going to see how that affects it. Based on their new rules about rigorous search of hate speech.
Well, any last-minute thoughts, Liming?
Well, my thoughts would be, it's really hard for individual investors to stay out of this, and given the kind of passion that we have and the kind of frenzy that we have going on with regard to the stock market. But it's important to remember what you have. I mean, you gotta make sure that at the end of the day, even if you lose money, you have enough to pay your bills, and make sure that
the Americans don't fucking have those rules.
You got to take care of the family.
To come up with
take
a law,
care of yourself in these rather
uncertain
that the
times. Borrower can repay the law.
It's definitely interesting to see how the stock market influences our mood, because sometimes when you see that extra buck being made in the financial markets without you breaking a sweat, it's like, great! But actually, these good stories don't always end well. So definitely one of the things to keep in check and in caution. You're listening to Roundtable. We'll be back after this break.
Looking for passion? How about fiery debate? Want to hear about current events in China from different perspectives? Then tune in to Roundtable.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roundtable, coming to you live from Beijing.
Roundtable.
Connecting China and the world.
We bring you fun and timely discussions about what's affecting our lives everywhere, every day. Tune in to Roundtable, where the East meets the West, and understanding is the goal. How are you? What's on your mind? Let's have a heart-to-heart on Roundtable. Ask us anything. We'll help you answer it. Send a voice memo to EZFM Roundtable at foxmail.com. We'll play your question on Roundtable, then talk through it on the live show. Take care. We can't wait for heart-to-heart.
I need help choosing laxatives.
Informed opinion and heated debate. Find out what's got China talking, and join us for your roundtable discussion.
You're listening to Roundtable with myself, He Young, joined by Patrick Flannery and Lai Nang. Coming up, group buying may be hitting for a comeback as e-commerce and delivery heavyweights in this country launch the new service. This time, they are targeting neighborhood communities. During a pandemic, it makes all the sense. But what about in the long run, when life is back to normal? And our special segment, Motivational Monday, coming your way, will give you that adrenaline shot for the start of the week. Our podcast listeners can find us at Roundtable China on the Apple Podcast and our Qingfeng Kelpin app. And if you have a question, we are here to answer it, and we do it every week. Please send a voice memo or a voice question to EZFM Roundtable at hotmail.com. Excuse me, that would be at foxmail.com. And we will give you that reply on the live
nobody would have caught that.
And now a Roundtable as we continue our discussion. Group buying is a whole bunch of people buy a product together at reduced prices. Remember, it was all the rage in the early
state-sponsored media.
2010s. It might be making a comeback, perhaps thanks to the coronavirus outbreak. Chinese e-commerce big names such as Alibaba and Meituan Dianping have announced the launch of a group buy service targeting neighborhood communities. So let's take a look at, I suppose, just the arrangement of these big companies when it comes to group buying in communities.
Well, so this is obviously nothing new. I think with the other online shopping platform, Pinduoduo, we already seen
Well,
that
tell us a little bit more about their business model.
So Pinduoduo was a rising challenger or rival to Alibaba's online e-commerce platform, Taobao. So it's different from Taobao in the sense that it's being innovative and creative about the way it gives discounts to people. So users can, let's say, post a link to Pinduoduo on their social network and asked for their friends to click on the link. And so the more clicks you get, the bigger the discount you get. So I think that's essentially the idea of group buying in the age of Pinduoduo, obviously.
And Pinduoduo actually is a company that grew from a startup to a mammoth, and now it's even surpassed JD.com in its value. So I guess this idea of buying in bulk with a whole bunch of people online has become something that is popular among people. And Pinduoduo also is well known for getting all these really cheap deals that in other platforms it's unfathomable kind of thing, but also quality is an issue, but we'll not get into the weeds of that at this moment.
Yeah, they're actually investing, what was it, 10 billion yuan's worth of investment into changing their company profile.
All right.
It doesn't want us to think it in the same light as we did many years ago as it just started. But I'm interested to see how they're going to emerge out of this.
Yeah. Okay, so now you're seeing that Meituan Dianping is getting into this business, and also Alibaba is no stranger to it anyhow. Like earlier this year, we saw that communities all across China, especially when people were in lockdown. How do you get all the daily necessities? And then it just made so much sense if it could arrive in bulk, and then you get, well, back then people didn't even think that much about price, because when you're knee high in a epidemic, I think they're thinking about safety and just getting the supplies first. But later on, people of course were thinking about, how can I get a better deal, and is this the sustainable way of shopping, at least throughout this year. Next year, it's probably a different story, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So at this moment, do you think that community group buy, it's the billion-dollar e-commerce sector that's sort of growing?
I'm not sure if you ask my personal opinion, because it's not like that kind of business pattern doesn't already exist. I mean, I'm not referring to the Pinduoduo example. I'm referring to the community grocery store run by mom and pop, that kind of thing. Yeah. So, yeah, if you live in Beijing, you live in a community, and more often than not, you are familiar with the guy or the woman that's selling grocery downstairs or somewhere. So you're familiar with the pattern. So how is Dianping going to challenge that business model? That's what I'm interested. And obviously, on the other hand, I mean, there are something that Dianping and technology can introduce to change the pattern. I think that one of the ways is to manage the inventory and make sure, and also streamline the delivery to make sure there's less waste involved in the fresh produce retail business, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, talking about this is a little bit sidetracking here, but when I think of the buying in bulk, some of the big box retailers back in the States, Costco, Sam's Club, BJ's, if you've ever heard of those, if you're listening, then you know what I'm talking about. You walk in, and the concept is that you are here to load up on massive amounts of, I don't know, whatever it is, water, mayonnaise, runs the gamut. And essentially that is what group buying is, and we've seen more of that obviously during COVID-19, where people think, okay, let's stock up as if we're going to fill the bomb shelter underground sort of scenario. But then to take it online, and this is about 10 years ago, Groupon was the big thing, and that was sort of the conceit being it's an online coupon, and the more people that buy into it, the better the deal. So maybe it's a restaurant that's only going to be $5 for a meal tonight as opposed to $20, and you would have to buy it and then use it on a certain day, and that would feed into more people buying it and group buying digitally. Of course, that was pre-e-commerce. And so that business model before that group buying sort of generated some momentum to drive down a price for a bigger group of people. But now it seems that major Chinese companies are doing it, and they seem to be doing it well, especially during probably the most difficult time on earth.
Possibly, at least if you just review the history of the last decade, if not a longer time span. But there's one thing I find to be maybe a little bit new here. That is, it seems like the community, although, that we didn't necessarily realize how big of a deal it is, I suppose, before COVID-19, when things were all fine and dandy, when we assumed our normal lives, because you make your own order on your smartphone, you combine your orders with other people on Pinduoduo or whatever. But when pandemic strikes, I think it also just left a really deep impression on me, especially during, let's say, February and March, when things were really bad in Wuhan, and I suppose everybody in China was looking at them and wanting to support them. And for a lot of the neighborhood grassroots workers, they took up the responsibility of getting groceries to the hundreds sometimes of households within a community. And I saw in the news how they were dividing up the vegetables, the bottles of oil, and all kinds of supplies. And then I was just thinking, I mean, of course, this was, you can say this was their job, but also I think it was really noble that they were so devoted in doing all of this for the people living there. But if you can get better prices and better sort of getting people involved to do all this work, because it was sort of dividing all these things up into portions, and then people would sort of come down to the gates and then get their bag, that kind of thing. And then it just made a lot of sense, it felt, to buy in bulk, and if it could be sorted at the warehouse instead of at the gates of that neighborhood community. I mean, this time, I think, has really made us reassess, let's say, the energy and what the neighborhood communities can do. And also, if we change the business model a little bit, and it could be very beneficial for those working on the front lines, and also maybe you'll have like long-term implications for people living in these and working in these neighborhoods.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'd like to just further elaborate my ambivalence about this. I mean, the cynical part of me just look at the business model, and what they're doing is, I think in the case of Dianping, they're trying to rely on what community leaders, like the owner of a grocery store or stay-at-home moms, so that are influential or key influencers in their own community to do the business and promotion, that sort of thing. So they're relying on pre-existing communities to do this. I mean, the cynical part of me look at this and see, so now they're thinking of this new innovative way to spend investors' money to do something that the people are already doing. So what else is new? So that's the cynical part of me. I mean, but on the other hand, there are things that they can do, obviously. Like I said earlier, the reduction of waste, if they were somehow able to find a way to streamline the transportation and also the warehouse management sort of thing. So it's going to make people's lives a lot easier. But on the other hand, what's going to happen to people that were already doing this? I know a lot of grocery store owners here in Beijing, they're already were catching on the technology trend. So they already have a QR code listed or erected in front of their groceries, so people can scan the code and pay the money. I mean, that's the best they can do in terms of keeping up with the times and the technology. But what else can they do? Will they be able to, let's say, manage a smart application or firmware to allow them to carry out more sophisticated inventory management? I'm not sure they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen to them? So people that were already doing a viable business and their lives depended on them, will they encounter tremendous changes?
Yeah. Well, do you think something like this could possibly fly in the U.S. or it's not just? It's probably, well, if it could possibly, you would have saw a tech startup already taking up the task.
Yeah, you know, it's tough. I mean, I think at the end of the day, people are pretty agnostic about what they're buying, provided they get a good deal and they get it fast. You know, it's sort of like, yeah, I mean, this business model, obviously, to be honest, I'm a little perplexed by it because I'm not engaged with it myself. However, you know, why not? You know, give it a shot. I mean, and if anything's going to be a test, it's going to be a pandemic of how people react to a new trend, and if it can catch on effectively. I mean, will it catch on, you know, throughout the U.S.? I just think right now people are, I mean, you've got 3.5 million cases. You know, Florida just saw its biggest single-day surge. People's behavior right now is a bit unpredictable, and how they consume and what they buy. Certainly, we would want fewer people to go to the grocery store themselves, or for that matter, be in a group setting. So I think, you know, it's like, well, let's read the room. Is a group buy really effective right now, considering, I don't know, one of us probably has this thing, and we should be social distancing in the beginning. I'm talking about in the United States. So, I don't know. It needs time.
But doesn't group buy, just by definition these days, and 2020, it means that we're all forming these virtual groups through our smartphones. Nobody's like actually meeting up. And can you imagine meeting up with someone and talking about let's buy in bulk? Really?
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that suggest? I mean, like to me in my mind, yeah, there's going to be not only just digital grouping, but yeah, I mean, I'm picturing. You know, what? There's going to be one drop-off point. The guy's going to leave it, and then like they swoop in like vultures to pick up their stuff.
They're supposed to. Okay, in my mind, see, we have a different kind of a reference here.
Yeah.
In my mind, it would be placing orders or having the chats with people that possibly you're going to discuss about a product before actually placing the order, and it's happening online. And then you individually in your own apartments or wherever you are place the order, and then it arrives, but at different places at your doorstep. So unless, let's say, in my ideal little world, Liming, I know you don't agree with it, let's say if we live in a community and then we both and a whole bunch of other people place orders for, let's say, some celery and lettuce for tomorrow, and then it would arrive in individual bags.
You just assume it would all be set up.
And then we don't we sort of individually go pick up.
All have to go in and split it up?
In theory, that
yourself?
would
that doesn't even make
save
sense
up on the carbon footprint because it's delivered in bulk, and it would be useful, especially during a pandemic when, you know, you're just trying to reduce the number of trips of people going to places and also gathering. But I know that's a little bit ideal and doesn't really work.
It's ideal. It's ideal given the context of COVID-19. And I know here in big cities, Miss Fresh and Meituan Dianping, they both promise to deliver door to door. So ideally, they will be able to have minimum contact with people if you were to pick things up. But given COVID-19 and in some places, especially my community, we had 4 confirmed cases at the early beginning of June. So as a result, our community was all but closed. So we all have to travel outside of the community, outside the gate.
I don't think he even understands.
So people were all lining up, or crowding up to get their orders. So that was the case. And then it seems to me that what they're doing right now, Meituan Dianping and what else they have, Alibaba. So they're making use of existing depots, grocery stores or convenience stores. They're using these as drop-off points. So the orders will be drop off there, and buyers will have to go to those pickup points to do the pickup.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different pattern than in big cities, and according to Ms. Fresh,
guessing how much shit to order.
That's precisely the reason why they are not doing these emerging markets, so smaller cities, markets in smaller cities, because it's simply too costly to do so.
Very interesting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And Westerners are not WeChat minded, if you know what I mean. And I guess what that means is like it's a very efficient tool that we use here. It's not really used there in the same sense. It doesn't incorporate your payment, your communication, and sort of the group mentality is it's a little more like I'll handle me, you handle you, culturally going on there. And when you throw the pandemic into the mix, I think it strains it even further a little bit. But I could be completely wrong.
But it's not like maybe in the US there are no locations where you can go to get discounts. I mean, there are websites like rebates, where you log onto that website and you click a link that will direct you to Amazon, and whatever you buy from Amazon, you'll get a discount or a kickback from rebates.
Okay.
So maybe they have to think of their own business pattern with regard to this community buying thing.
It's all an experiment, isn't it?
Yeah. Definitely. We are
no harm in trying something.
experimenting with this mass experiment in the world right now. One last question for this topic, though, guys. In the long run, let's try to envisage what that will look like when the pandemic is over, when we are free and happy to go wherever we want. Would this kind of thing still be popular at all? This group buying community thing?
I could totally see my mother logging on to WeChat and posting links to whatever group buy orders they have. So my uncles, my aunts will click on the link to get a discount, or they'll buy the same thing. I could totally see that. As long as it's easier, as long as my mother can get it in the supermarket that is closest to them.
Yeah, well, I guess there can be a social function to it. Well, what's your answer, Patrick? I think I kind of know. You're like, meh.
Yeah, meh. I'm kind of like, let's see what happens. That's very American. Look, it's just one of those things. We'll see what habits, how they shift in this new age we're in.
See the menu, and he already
knows we'll just have to wait and see. You're listening to Roundtable. Coming up next, Motivational Monday.
Spring rolls on the side. Why on the side? They're always on the side, stupid. They're spring rolls.
Motivational Mondays.
This is the part when we give you that motivational kick. You are going to hear it from me, Huiyang, Patrick, and Lai Meng. Patrick, why don't you take it away?
We have to kick people?
Motivational kick?
Kick them down on Motivational Monday? Here's something.
Oh, is it to bring people down?
No. This is just one of those sort of...
The worker don't. Stop this fucking bullshit.
From Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook.
Black and green bandana, black bandana, 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 black bandana, black and green, black bandana, black bandana, black and green, black bandana, black bandana.
What would you do if you were not afraid? Now, I don't, as with most Motivational Mondays, I'm not here to necessarily throw an answer out there, but it's more of just when a quote like that jars me, and it does make you think, because what is she implying? She's saying we're all afraid we're going to fail. We're all afraid we're going to get hurt.
What the?
So we don't ask the person out on a date. We don't throw our hat in the ring for office. We don't submit the CV to that job. And why? It's because we're afraid of it. What makes us afraid is because we failed in the past. So what would we do if we were not afraid? And I believe Lai Ming said he wanted to fly before the show.
I'd like to fly.
That's a good one. And like it's like what physically scares me, what emotionally scares me,
smart
and how do you sort of bridge the two? I remember that some other quote I came across many weeks ago was
I'm scared of bears.
What would you do? Geez, I lost the thread. Now I'm very afraid to keep talking.
That's okay. I think
But yeah.
with some of these open-ended questions, it gets you thinking, and it could
do something every day that scares you. That was kind of mirrored to this.
Right.
And also there's a saying that says a coward dies many times before he actually dies, while a hero only dies once.
Yeah.
Because in his head, a coward would have envisioned dying multiple times, and that's the cost you pay for being afraid.
Yeah, I think it's just try something. Don't try it, do it.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll shut up there. Time for somebody else to not be afraid.
And it could be me.
Sure,
and I'm doing it now.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so recently I have been doing a lot of soul searching with the coronavirus outbreak. Of course, it's been with us for a while now. And also the torrential rain that's happening in the southern parts of China and subsequent flooding in certain parts of China. It is definitely what I've been thinking about. And if these things have taught me anything, it is humility. And here I have a humility quote for you. True humility is not thinking of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less. And it's through these natural disasters, it's through these things that happen that's not our fault. It's just a force of nature that you can't really predict, nor do you feel there's much you can do except for, I would say, this is particularly the time we shall reach out to friends, neighbors, and complete strangers. Lend a helping hand as much as you can.
No, that's how this goddamn virus is spreading. The fuck is
fighting on the front line, whether it is to save people from the flooding areas, or is it people still trying to fighting to contain the virus and doing us a service so we could be at work regularly, so we can conduct our lives regularly as normal as possible.
I'm an asshole. I'm a jackass. I'm a goof. I'm this. I'm that.
Just think about that. I understand sometimes when you say, oh, gratitude, it's something so important, and people tend to think, oh, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I think gratitude, if it's given out without full measure and assessment of the situation, sometimes it's an excuse. It almost directs our attention away from what actually is the problem here. And I think that is not what I'm trying to do here at all. But yeah, this is a time, I think, to look at ourselves, our own being, and what we can do for others. That's it from me. And thank you. Liming, what do you have for us?
Well, I have a quote that occurred to me last week, and it goes like this. It's from historian Sima Qian, who wrote the historical records. He said, 无言处其事之行，而常贫贱，好育仁义，亦足修也. So if you're not somebody that's made up your mind to be a hermit, and you stay in poverty rather willingly for too long, and you keep talking empty talks about propriety, about humanity and righteous behavior, it's a shameful act.
Wow,
and so I like to share this quote in light of the topic that we have about the stock market and how people are diving into it in the depth of it. So I'd like to follow up with a different quote. And that's also a Chinese saying. 君子爱財，取之有道. So everybody wants to be wealthy, but the good-natured man would do it in a reasonable and righteous way. And at the end of it, I will finish with a story. And so the disciple of Confucius, Zilu, he's the guy that followed Confucius for the longest time, and that's known for his bravery. And at one point, he saved somebody that was drowning in the river. And as a gift or as a compensation, that sort of thing, the guy or the victim gifted him with cattle or a cow or something. And back then, a lot of the audience were criticizing on Zilu for actually accepting the gift. What happens to you? Aren't you a gentleman, a good-natured man? Are you not supposed to be doing this for free? Save a man's life, be the honorable guy. So a lot of onlookers were criticizing what Zulu did by taking the cow or the cattle. But Confucius quite opposed what Zulu said.
If you don't
so on the one hand, Zulu was not exactly affluent. So he was not exactly the most wealthy man. So he could use the cow or the cattle. And on the other hand, by accepting the gift, he's setting a very good example to the society that no good deed goes unpunished. So you do something nice and you get something in return. So Confucius was actually plotting what Zulu did.
It's called a mixed
together with these quotes and this story, I'm hoping to make the point that yes, we all want to be rich at some point. I mean, it's shameful to lay back and just wallow in poverty. So you have to do something about it. You have to be using your ability to the best of your ability to sort of look out for your family, look out for yourself, but you have to do it in the right way. And one of the ways that Confucius approved of was, well, do something nice for the society, and you get something in return.
We put Hemi crate motors in them fucking
I would actually say that, well, maybe wealth is not the end for everyone. Maybe for some people, it's just doing something fulfilling for yourself, or, you know, for your family, or what the end could be. I think there are a million different options out there, or at least I like to think that we all have our own imagined destination kind of thing. You're listening to Roundtable, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find us on Apple Podcasts at Roundtable China. Bye, guys.
You probably saw bootleg Sailor Moon.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roundtable, coming to you live from Beijing. Roundtable. Roundtable.
Connecting China and the world.
We bring you fun and timely discussions about what's affecting our lives everywhere, every day.
Tune in to Roundtable, where the East meets the West, and understanding is the goal.
You're listening to China Plus Radio, connecting you with China and the world.
Yeah, but it's a 3D connection. Watch.
Now the news. I'm Sui. China has announced sanctions on the U.S. entity and 4 officials in response to U.S. sanctions on multiple Chinese officials in Xinjiang region. The 4 U.S. officials include Senators Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, Representative Chris Smith, and politician Samuel Dale Brownback. A Chinese government spokesperson says the country is resolute in combating terrorist and extremist forces and will take further action as the situation develops.
What?
Officials say 433 rivers in China have exceeded alerting levels since early June, with 33 of them rising to historical highs. The minister.
Fuck you.
In that case, his soul would have returned in the form of some beast. He wanted to be slain because he expects to be reborn instantly in Benares, with little Maela Ran as his bride instead of his nephew's. He hopes to be a great man with wife and children. All the things he was not. Here in Trinidad.
What happened to 10 a.m.?
You must be right. Why didn't you come and tell me about Haradas's confession the moment it occurred? What do you mean keeping me here when you know I'm an innocent man? Why didn't you tell me before this? Because I couldn't. Old Hiradas didn't confess.
But I should take a moment. Cantella 75 Sinfonia. For sakes.
Casos confirmados nas últimas 24 horas, o país sul-americano totaliza agora um total de 72.100 mortos e cerca de 2 milhões de casos de infecção. O foco da pandemia no país continua a ser São Paulo, seguindo-se o Ceará e o Rio de Janeiro. O México tornou-se ontem no 4º país do mundo com mais mortes causadas pela Covid-19. De acordo com um balanço da agência de notícias France Press, baseado em fontes governamentais, há naquele país 299.750 casos de contágios confirmados e 35.006 mortes. Os Estados Unidos continuam a ser o país com o maior número de mortos, 426 foram só nas últimas 24 horas, período no qual se registaram ainda 57 mil novos casos de infecção. Segundo a Universidade Johns Hopkins, o país contabiliza 135.155 mortos e já ultrapassou os 3.200.000 casos de infecção. O número de casos nos Estados Unidos aumentou para uma média de 60 mil por dia na semana passada, com um crescimento em 37%.
Is it Punjabi salsa? It says anything, it is a server motherfuckers. Is it not over? No more. Broadcast done. Wow, that was interesting for a few seconds. Or that I didn't even get to fucking put it. I've almost got the joint rolled. I need it. Ow! Oh. Soviet shootouts. In my mind, every Soviet Russian submarine also has a control station that does nothing but it's a Tetris game. Plumbing work done. See, this is the age of that. I don't like this new Mario Brothers Mario team. And I can do the work myself, but then I'm on the responsible. Fuck that. Somebody has to make me. I keep saying this. Somebody has to make this shit. You should be handing me ecstasy before you play this. This should be the countdown timer. Background music. 29, 28. Some jackass is playing music on the stage. Hey, Haiti, what's going on?
1995. En 1977, une gigantesque panne d'électricité due à la foudre prive quelques 8 millions d'habitants de New York pendant 25 heures, profitant de l'obscurité, des pillards dévastent plus de 1700 commerces. La police procédera à plus de 3000 arrestations. En 1908, c'est la première compétition féminine aux Jeux Olympiques. Voilà donc pour le réveil du jour, mesdames et messieurs. Nous allons poursuivre en musique. On se retrouve tout de suite après la pause. À tout à l'heure.
Meilleur avis, Belle Optique. Belle Optique a fait tout le monde connaître que magasin Lio l'ouvrit de 9h le matin pour 2h l'après-midi. Côté d'Ambivoine, service pour lunettes, examen de la vue, produits pour lunettes et prise de contact. Belle Optique prend toute mesure qui est nécessaire pour sécurité nous à santé. Nous venons visiter, alimenter nous tout, prend toute précaution pour protéger tête. Mettez masque tout le temps, lavez mains très souvent. Pas coller qu'on nous sous le monde, campez loin plutôt. Belle Optique, 3 adresses. En rue Chavannes et Clairvaux-Pétionville, 25 rue Cap-Wachan-Mars et Delma, entre 17 et 19.
Tu avais le COVID-17? Damn it. That's as bad as the other one. What's the other lounge? When in the hour of utmost need, this guy was a depressing dude. Huh?
Selkirk and see if I can talk Mike at the general store into extending our credit. If he turns me down, then...
Robin.
Well, I don't know what to do.
Yes, you do.
It was early that afternoon when Sergeant Preston, with his great dog King, was at the constable's office in Selkirk, talking to the constable.
Things seem to be fairly quiet around here, Jim. I think I'll be leaving for Dawson tomorrow to report to headquarters.
When do you expect to be coming back this way, Sergeant?
Why, I don't know exactly. Guess it won't be very long before we see you again.
Oh, Bert Andrews. What brings you here? Something's happened to Frank Allen.
Frank Allen at the express office?
Yes, sir. Sergeant, this is Bert Andrews. Lives on Indian Creek Trail with his wife and little boy.
Hello, Bert.
Sergeant.
What about Frank Allen?
I was on my way to town. I found him lying alongside the trail not far from my cabin. He'd been shot.
Is he dead?
No, sir. Unconscious. His freight sled and dog team was standing nearby. I took him to our cabin, and my wife is doing what she can for him. I came to town to get the doctor, but he's on a call and won't be back for a couple of hours or more.
I see. Jim, suppose I go to the cabin with Bert right away. I'll give Frank what first aid I can. Meantime, you stay here and find out from the express office where Frank was heading. Then wait here and bring the doctor out as soon as he gets to town.
Right, Sergeant.
Let's get going, Bert. I'll get my dog team and follow you to the cabin. Come along, King.
Within an hour, Bert arrived at the cabin with Preston and King. As the sergeant, with Alice's help, worked over the unconscious Frank, Bert tried to give more details.
It must have happened just a short time before I found him.
I know, Bert. Otherwise, Frank might have frozen out there. Give me another bandage, please, Mrs. Andrews.
Yeah, but if he had been shot outside, he wouldn't be dead.
Anything else we can do until the doctor gets here?
I think he'll live.
I didn't know that.
I can't say. Right now, he's in rather critical condition. There, that's all I can do.
Poor fellow. I hope you catch the one who did this.
We passed the place where Bert found Frank. Stopped only a moment, but long enough for me to see a clearly defined trail. 2 people with a dog sled had been there besides Frank.
Daddy, I wonder if... Look at that big dog.
Tommy, I told you to stay in the other room, son.
It's all right, Bert. I forgot about your having a boy. How are you, Tommy?
I'm fine, sir. This is Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police, Tommy. And that's your dog, King.
Golly, I like King, and I'm not afraid of him, even one bit either.
King likes boys, Tommy. He wouldn't hurt you.
Sergeant, tomorrow is Thanksgiving. Are you going to have turkey? Are you?
Why, no, Tommy. That's an American custom.
Tommy, don't bother Sergeant Preston. He has important work to do. Now, you run along into the other room and play, son, huh?
Oh, gosh, I suppose I have to.
You have your Thanksgiving when? Jesus Christ, it's cold out by then.
Poor Tommy just can't understand why we can't have a turkey.
We started it. Our date's official. Yours is fake.
Even when we were back home.
No, you see, Sergeant, we're short of funds, but we'll make up.
By the way, how are you celebrating a British holiday?
I'd better take you back to where Frank was shot
You're
down.
American. You
That's
hate British so much.
A short time later, Sergeant Preston with King and Bert stopped the place where the shooting had occurred. Okay. Bert, look here.
What, Sergeant?
Looks as though a dog sled turned here and headed back towards Selkirk. And there are the tracks of two men.
There's no way we have 8 shootings in 48 hours.
Somebody coming along the trail from town.
Yes, they're coming around the bend.
Obviously.
Seems to be two men, one riding a sled.
The driver's a constable. Must be bringing the
Yeah,
doctor.
Musitano thinks it's a back and forth that goes back
Doctor
forever.
must have come back sooner than expected.
Looks like it.
The doctor got back soon after you left town. He's over there on the sled.
Good. The wounded man's still unconscious at the cabin. Bert, I suggest that you have the doctor transfer to your sled and take him to the cabin. The constable and I have things to talk over.
All right, sir. I'll get the doctor on my sled and get going right away.
Jim, I'm sure there were 2 men who shot Frank. Trail's fairly clear. We'll take King and follow it immediately. We can talk about the trail.
All right. I found out Frank was carrying a box on his freight sled to the bank at Indian Creek.
Oh, then robbery must have been the motive. There's no box on Frank's sled now. I looked it over at the cabin. Let's follow that trail now and try to get those crooks before heavy snow comes and covers their tracks. I notice Bert's ready to leave with the doctor.
See you later, Sergeant.
Right, Bert.
Right.
Line him up, King. Let's go, Jim.
I'm ready.
On ping! On! We'll continue our story in just a moment. Say, fellas and girls, tomorrow's a big day. Yes, sirree, there's nothing like Thanksgiving. Good heavens, look what's wandered in, a turkey. Gee, he's a mighty fine-looking turkey. Pretty wise-looking old bird, too. Almost looks like he could talk.
Hello there, Jay.
But what in the world's he doing here? Huh? Did that turkey say something?
I said, hello there.
You're a talking turkey?
What's wrong with that? You talk, don't you?
Well, sure, but I...
Well, so do I. Matter of fact, I'd like to get something off my mind.
Well, go ahead.
Well, sir, on Thanksgiving, all folks seem to think about is dinner.
Uh-huh.
Personally, I'd like to see a little more emphasis on breakfast.
Say, you've got something there, Mr. Turkey. Breakfast is a most important meal. It should never be overlooked, even on Thanksgiving. So here's a tip. Tomorrow morning, enjoy a breakfast of delicious Quaker puffed wheat or Quaker puffed rice, the ready-to-serve breakfast cereals shot from guns. These giant king-size grains are shot from guns to make them crisp and tender. Yes, Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice are actually exploded up to 8 times normal size to make them bigger and better tasting. What's more, wheat or rice shot from guns furnishes added food values of restored natural grain amounts of vitamin B1, niacin, and iron. Good and good for you. That's Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice.
Now you're talking. Well, must be going now.
Will we be seeing you again?
Sure, I'll be back next year. Goodbye.
Say, it isn't every day you meet up with a talking turkey. But fellas and girls, you can meet up with a swellest tasting breakfast tomorrow or any day. That breakfast is wheat or rice shot from guns. Delicious with milk and fruit. Ask Mom to get both kinds. That's Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice. Now to continue our story. While Bert Andrews, his own troubles forgotten, hurried to the cabin with the doctor, Sergeant Preston and King, accompanied by the constable, started following the trail left by Gil and Jeff. A short time later, they halted at a branch trail.
This branch trail they took doesn't go through town, it goes around it. Joins the main trail to White Horse and the south of Selkirk.
Yeah, I know. Snow's beginning to fall. The wind's getting stronger, Sergeant.
If it develops into a blizzard, we'll have trouble following this trail. Tell me, Jim, what do you know about Bert Andrews?
Hey, you don't think Bert had anything to do with this case, do you? From what I know of him, he's a fine chap.
I didn't mean I suspect him of being implicated. The reason I ask is because the Andrews seem to be having trouble. Bert said something about lack of funds.
Well, his claim isn't any good. I do know he owes quite a bit at Mike's store.
Oh, I see. Tell me, Jim, what was being shipped in that box to the Indian Creek Bank, you know?
I couldn't find out. The express agent wasn't at the office, and the clerk there didn't know. You can find that out when we get back to town.
Must be of value, or those crooks wouldn't attempt murder to get it.
That's right.
They've had a fairly good start on us. We better keep going if we hope to catch them.
Right, Sergeant.
All right, King. On King! On!
Meantime, Gil and Jeff had avoided the town and were making their way along the trail that led to White Horse. Since they took turns riding the sled, their dogs made slower progress than Preston and the constable were making with their light sleds. The trail was rough and cold, and the wind and falling snow impeded the speed of the two crooks. Once more, they stopped to change places and to rest the dogs.
Oh there! All right, Jeff, my turn to ride the sled. Yep, I know. But I sure hate to get out from under this rope. It's getting colder by the minute. Snow's getting heavier. You sure picked a bad time to be heading for White Horse. It's a long, hard trip, even in fairly mild weather. We're going to have to find a place to stop before long, Gil. The dogs are being pushed so hard, they're wearing down. I know that. We've got to put a lot of distance between us and Selkirk before somebody finds that body. Just in case the constable manages to pick up our trail. Oh, there's nothing to worry about now. With this snow falling, the trail's getting well covered. And if I remember right, there's no cabin about 2 miles further along the trail. We'll stop there for a while. That'll give us a chance to open up the box we took and find out what's in it. All right, get on the sled and let's get going. I'm getting colder every minute. Okay. March! Husky! Too long!
A short time later, the two crooks arrived at the deserted cabin. They spent some time starting a fire in the fireplace and in fixing something to eat. Their limbs were almost numb with the cold when they arrived, and it was some time before they thought of the box out under the robe.
Coming up at 6:30, movie theaters, gyms, playgrounds. What will be in stage 3 of the lifting of pandemic restrictions? We'll find out later today.
City News Time, 6:23. Isn't it time to give your couch a break? Head down to the Lavazza Drive-In Film Festival at Ontario Place, July 20th to 31st. Under the stars, sharing emotion.
Massachusetts made its way to New York State. Cause of each scan, you can take this whole country. One block at a time, bricks and halves, 40 down. Flipping with my time, stacking paper, dollars round. Stacks like shit, still it's on the river quick. Extra clicks, blacks is doing it to the kid. Blacks, black and drink, black
And starts today with the Maple Leafs opening training camp. Jeff Verhoeven's been waiting for months for hockey to start back up and is doing his best to contain his excitement.
Wow, it's finally here. Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, I missed you guys. And then we'll all be back on the ice today for the official first day of training camp. A mini 2-week camp to get the boys into as good a shape as possible before they start the best of 5 prelim series with the Blue Jackets on August 2nd. Now, players are allowed to opt out of all of this without judgment. So, GM Kyle Dubas, any Leafs going to skip the playoffs? I don't think that it looks right now that any of the players that we've invited will be opting out. At least I haven't heard that. I don't have any inkling of that.
Oh boy. So, Super GM, what are we expecting from this team?
I have no idea. We're going to find out soon, though.
What? I mean, fair. The team will move into the NHL bubble and the Royal York Hotel once camp finishes. I'm Jeff Verhoeven. Binge buying on snack food, boosting the bottom line at one of the world's biggest soft drink companies. Business in 60 seconds.
6 City News Time, 6:25. Hi, I'm Terry Tabb, co-founder of the Herzog Eye Institute. Announcing full patient care has resumed. While we were closed, we instituted new technology that removes airborne impurities as microscopic as viruses, meaning surgically clean air through our entire facility. Google high-definition vision. Watch a video explaining all our safety measures. Call us for a consultation. There's no charge. Herzog Eye Institute is prepared. You're protected. Look after yourself. Promise me.
Superfan with a super deal. Our biggest construction sale is on now. Don't wait for 6 months on all new cars. Your safety is our #1 priority. We have masks and gloves ready for you. We sanitize every hour.
Start selling beer in about half an hour.
No payment for 6 months on all new cars. Shifting to drive at navbatiashyundai.com. Looking for a Hyundai? I'm your guy. Book your appointment today.
6 City News Time, 6:26.
Now the business report with Mike Apple. What's going on, Mike?
Well, we've got a quarterly earnings update in this morning that might be indicative of some consumer spending habits in the midst of the pandemic shutdown and subsequent restart. PepsiCo has reported stronger than expected sales in the second quarter because consumers were stocking up on snack foods and beverages during the pandemic outbreak. Now, PepsiCo is one of the world's biggest soft drink companies, but also is a massive snack food company as well. It owns things such as Doritos and Lay's potato chips. Now, many companies have seen earnings drop in the midst of the pandemic. PepsiCo is not one of them, which saw a revenue of $16 billion in its latest quarter, and that was about $500 million above the company's best guess. And the stock price reflecting the positive results, up by 2% already in early U.S. trading action this morning. We have the stock futures up overall. Markets are looking good, even though we are coming into the quarterly earnings season where earnings are estimated to be down 44% compared to where they were a year ago, which would be the largest year-over-year decline since the 2008-09 recession. Nevertheless, the Dow futures up by 150 points this morning. NASDAQ comes in at an all-time record high. Once again, we've got shares of Tesla at a record pre-market. It's about $1,500 US. Tesla has jumped about 43% in just the past 2 weeks, and Elon Musk is now worth $70 billion, which puts him at number 7 on the world's richest list. And he's actually surpassed Warren Buffett. Buffett used to be number 1 or number 2 consistently, but his earnings have dropped this year because Berkshire Hathaway's performance has underperformed the overall market. The price for oil sliding 66 cents at $39.89. OPEC meets this week and could actually announce a production increase on a daily basis. They've been cutting back most recently, but could change that this week. The Canadian dollar is steady. We'll have a midweek decision on interest rates from the Bank of Canada. That will be on Wednesday morning. Dollar comes in up 1/10 cent, 73.69 cents US. At the Business Center, I'm Mike Apple.
Willowdale Nissan, Canada's #1 retail dealer 5 years in a row. The Rediscover the Road sales event is on from July 16th to 18th. Get a 2020 Sentra S Plus from $279 monthly with 0 down at 1.5% APR for 39 months OAC. There has never been a better time to buy. They have a huge selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles that are truly the cream of the crop. Come and experience the Willowdale way. Visit willowdalenissan.com.
I see you in my crystal ball searching for a new home.
Yeah.
You don't know if you search for days or months.
How did you?
I now see a 130-day mortgage rate guarantee from BMO, the longest of any major bank, so you can take your time house hunting.
Is this still my fortune?
Nah, just good advice, but it's more impressive in my spooky voice.
Ooh. When a bank gives you mortgage peace of mind, that's the BMO effect. Visit BMO.com. Plus, get up to $3,000 in a cash bonus with your new mortgage. Terms and conditions apply. Longest rate guarantee of any major bank as of March 1st.
Our meteorologist Jill Taylor's latest forecast calling for a lot more comfortable today, but the heat and humidity will build again later this week. Now for today, sun cloud mix, slight chance of showers or thunderstorms. On our way to a 60 news guaranteed high of 27. Our jackpot, by the way, $5,900. Right now, breeze cloudy in downtown Toronto. 60 news time 6:30.
Number one for news in Toronto. This is 680 News.
Here are Paul Cook and Catherine Chatay.
Good morning. It's Monday, July 13th.
Here's what's making news right now.
Here we go. Parts of the province will move into stage 3 of pandemic reopening this
They don't
week.
care about
We're
the shootings.
expecting to hear it from the Premier today, with Toronto and Peel expected to stay on the sidelines.
Summer day camps begin today in Toronto, but before the fun, Camp TO kids will be screened for COVID-19 symptoms and have temperature checks.
A brief break from sweltering conditions, no humidity to start the week, and highs below 30 expected for the next few days.
A sad day in Hollywood. Actress Kelly Preston, known for roles in Twins and Jerry Maguire, and for being married to John Travolta, has died.
The Montreal Canadiens are reportedly dealing with several positive COVID-19 tests as NHL training camps open up today. Sports at 45. Stock futures up. Earnings in this morning from PepsiCo above forecast, and the company's raising its guidance.
Easy to say, if they get COVID, permanent damage to the lungs.
News, traffic and weather together on the ones for Sportsnet. Here is Eva
play hard.
Francescatos. A little bit of light volume on the eastbound 401 through Mavis and again through Weston in the collector lanes. On the westbound 401, delays through Kennedy, both express and collector lanes. Southbound Don Valley Parkway, no major issues there. Looks to be in decent shape. Eastbound 403 Express ramp to the 401 Express. We've got the left lane closed. That's all for construction. So you'll find delays from about Matheson in the Express.
They're literally lining up.
Winston Churchill, the left lane is closed. That's all for construction, but no slowdown through there.
The seasonal test
Sportsnet's
positive
President
before they
Diane
get
Sports
started.
World turned upside down. Sports on pause. Listen and subscribe at sportsnet.ca/podcast.
Obviously catching
Next
that
report is at
fucking
6:41.
silly.
Here's a check on the forecast with Jill Taylor. Well, just a slight chance of showers or an isolated thunderstorm today, but a seasonal, comfortable, guaranteed high 27. Right now, we've got some clouds, 19 at Pearson, 20 at 680 News, the guaranteed high 27.
680 News time 6:32.
More pandemic restrictions are about to be lifted in parts of the province this week, but it could be a while before Toronto and Peel region enters stage 3 of reopening.
Our Jamie Colfer joins us live ahead of an announcement today by the Premier. Jamie.
Yeah, Paul, week 18 of Pandemic Live starts with the news that parts of the province will, in fact, move into stage 3 of reopening, and that will happen this week. We're expecting to hear all about it from Premier Doug Ford during his daily briefing today. Now, a senior government source confirms to 680 News this will be a regional reopening plan. So does this mean that the GTA COVID hotspots of Toronto and Peel region could be left on the sidelines again? University of Toronto epidemiologist Colin Furness tells City News that it's better to be cautious.
There's a net one size fits all. It's not doing it that way, but allowing local units to figure out what's important to them, what matters to them, and what the local risk characteristics are like. So I'm hoping that we will continue to see that.
Now, we still don't know exactly what stage 3 means, but among the businesses likely to be given the green light are gyms and fitness centers, movie theaters, and indoor dining at restaurants and bars. And while large gatherings like concerts and sporting events will still be a no-go, could restrictions be lifted on public gatherings? Right now, the limit is 10 people. Reporting live, Jamie Holford, 680 News.
6 City News time, 6:33. With childcare seen as a key step in reopening the economy amid the COVID-19 pandemic, the city's altered summer day camps are launching today. 6 City's Kevin Meisner joins us live from outside a community center near Shepherd and Don Mills. Kevin.
Well, Catherine, a sign in the window here at the Parkway Forest Community Center welcomes kids to the Camp TO program. Then another sign just inside the front doors tells them to immediately wash their hands before beginning any of the intake programs. The city's summer camp program is quite different this year because of COVID-19. All staff and campers will be screened for symptoms on a daily basis and have their temperatures taken.
What is
Any
the
child
camp?
with symptoms will be required to show proof of a negative COVID-19 test before they're allowed back into the program. And here at this community
Are they
center,
going to learn
campers are
anything
asked
that's
to
going to
bring
help
the
them later on?
usual
No, they're not.
water
We got
bottle, sunscreen,
babysitters
but also
who
2 to 3
are calling
masks,
themselves
which
essential
will be
workers,
required
but
to
they
be
have
worn
never been to
for
school
any
in their
indoor
lives. That's
activities.
great.
And it will allow for physical distancing. Only 32,000 Camp TO
Glad
spots
to hear
were
college
available
is not
across the
count.
city at 150 locations this year, available for kids ages 6 to 12. At Parkway Forest Community Center near Shepherd and Don Mills, Kevin Meisner, 680 News.
680 News time, 6:35. A grim milestone for global COVID-19 cases. The World Health Organization has reported another record increase in cases, with over 230,000 over the past 24 hours. Devastating new numbers out of the U.S., with 66,000 cases reported there. ABC's Kenneth Moten reports Florida has surpassed New York City's peak of cases in April.
The Sunshine State reporting 15,000 new cases Sunday, the highest single-day jump in the U.S. ever. Florida is among 7 states setting daily death toll records. Walt Disney World, owned by our parent company Disney, reopening over the weekend, nearly 4 months after the park was closed. Epcot and Disney's Hollywood Studios are set to open Wednesday.
Florida and 6 other states also set daily death toll records yesterday.
This is 6 City News. The high heat and humidity we saw last week has left the city with more comfortable highs expected for the next couple days. Our meteorologist Jill Taylor says the record high for July 13th was more like the temperatures we experienced last week. Record high for this date was only a couple of years ago in 2016. We hit 36 degrees. Today, nowhere near that. It's a lot more comfortable, 27 degrees. Jill says humidity will increase on Wednesday. By Friday, it will feel like 35 with the humidity.
680 News time, 6:36. A 26-year-old man has died of his injuries after he was shot outside of Scarborough Town Center Friday. Police say Jordan Marcel was shot in the abdomen at the entrance of a store. He died in hospital yesterday. There's no word on suspects. Police say a dark-colored SUV was seen taking off from the area. It was a violent weekend in the city with several other shootings. A 20-year-old man was killed, 4 others injured in a drive-by shooting near Main and St. Clair on Friday night. 2 other shooting incidents sent 3 people to hospital.
This is 6 City News. TFC and DC United hope that the third try to get their MLS's back game in is lucky. 6 City's resident footy fanatic Mike Leach has the story.
Toronto FC and DC United will try again this morning to get in the game that was postponed just minutes before kickoff was set to take place yesterday. The players were tested again, and those results were negative. TFC GM Ali Curtis last night outlined what's next for his player who produced the initial inconclusive result.
They'll take another test.
It's counterintuitive.
We'll have to wait.
Go lay down or no, I'm not tired. I gotta go for
negative. He'll be held out, so he's in isolation.
This is the third attempt at playing this game. It was originally scheduled for Friday night, but had to be rescheduled as a result of Toronto FC arriving in Orlando too late to meet all league protocols. I'm Mike Leach.
680 News time, 6:37. The boys in blue and white are back on the ice today here in Toronto as the Maple Leafs kick off training camp. Sportsnet 590 The Fans' Rob Long takes a look at a rookie that could turn some heads over the next few weeks.
NHL players from the 24 playoff teams are officially back to work today as formal training camps are opening up, including here in Toronto.
What if you didn't know yet, Sickle? What did you start your life?
Yesterday, and
just didn't think about it.
was top prospect Nick Robertson, who scored 55 goals in the Hockey League this year. GM Kyle Dubas says the 18-year-old could get a look at some point if things break his way.
Nick is one of those players that's competing. We're not going to look at his age or
genius sold me
anything like that.
a flesh colored belt, and I bought it.
An impact that he can play with older, stronger players, then he'll roll from there.
Dubas also says that as of right now, none of his players are planning on opting out of the playoffs. From Sportsnet 590 The Fan, I'm Ron Wall.
6 City News Time 6:38. Quebec Provincial Police continue to search through the night for the father of 2 girls whose bodies were found Saturday in a small town northwest of Quebec City. The bodies of Nora and Romy Cassassier, aged 11 and 6, were located in a wooded area in the community of Saint-Apollinaire. The girls had been the subject of an Amber Alert that was issued Thursday. The manhunt for their father, 44-year-old Martin Cassassier, has authorities tightening the search in a thickly wooded area near where the young sisters from Lévis, Quebec were found.
6 City News Time 6:39. A woman is being accused of defrauding multiple victims after allegedly posing as a landlord. TDS Danny at City News reports.
2 women looking to rent a 1-bedroom basement apartment in Mississauga became the victims of an elaborate plot in which they each lost $2,000.
Losing that amount of money and not knowing if I was going to be able to make it up in time for a new place was really scary.
Everything seemed ordinary at first. Both women found the listing on Kijiji and contacted the poster, who was posing as the landlord. They were both told they could move in July 1st, but a week before they received the same text, notifying them that the current tenant couldn't vacate on time.
I kind of got suspicious, so I looked up her name, and I found a Facebook ad that had been posted saying that she was scamming people, and I'm like, oh no.
It was then that they realized multiple people had fallen victim to the same scam. Peel police have now charged 23-year-old Shirley Farrar with 1 count of defrauding the public. Farrar no longer lives in this home, and police say the investigation is ongoing. For City News, I'm TDS Danny.
6 City News Time 6:40.
That means the investigation is not closed, meaning they know who she is, and no one's being sent to court. Means no one's going to get sent to court, right?
I wasn't alone. Thousands of homeowners wanted help.
They went above and beyond to help me get a line of credit. It was amazing service.
They treated me like a valued client and outperformed anyone I spoke to. Want to lower your mortgage payments and save a little money?
Use your home to get a loan with New Borrow. Visit newborrow.com. License 13115.
6 City News Time 6:41.
Time for 6 City News, traffic and weather together on the ones from Mr. Lube. Here's Eva Franciscatos.
Well, right now, if you're eastbound on the 401, you'll find delays through Navis, particularly the Western Express and collector lanes. On the eastbound Bergen line, you're slowed down Jason's Deptford. Eastbound 403 Express right to the 401. We've got the left lane closed for construction, so some minor delays through there. Westbound QEW at Winston Churchill, left lane is still closed off for construction. And on the southbound 404, Dog Valley Parkway, minor volume building from the Old Mills to south of Lawrence. Westbound 401, it's still slowed too.
I'll be crossing the street when I die.
Collector lanes.
I'll be right in the awkward spot where nobody can. You all have to sort of go around, and then you have to go around the other car because it's going around.
Proudly Canadian since
When I die, I'm going to
1976.
make a fucking pain in
Next
the
report
ass
is
for
at
everybody.
6:51. Here's a check on the forecast with Jill Taylor. Well, no significant humidex to deal with this morning. We do have some clouds right now, but we'll get into some sunshine today too. The guaranteed high 27 degrees, and that is the average high. Slight chance of showers or isolated thunderstorms for the afternoon, early evening. And then we'll just have a few clouds tonight, 16 for the low. Tomorrow, sunshine and 27. Right now, we've got mostly cloudy sky, 19 appears and 20 at 6 News. The guaranteed high today,
Like
27.
without the jumpsuit to just go, I don't have to adjust nothing or anything. This just goes over
Now,
top.
the Scotia iTrade Market Minute.
Good morning. Market's looking pretty good to kick off the trading week as we get into the quarterly earnings season. Already this morning, PepsiCo has reported better than forecast results, and the Dow futures up by 140 points. Nasdaq's coming in at a record and could set a fresh high at the opening trades this morning. There's quite a bit of resiliency here on the financial markets, despite the economic worries going forward. Price for oil hovering at $40 a barrel. An OPEC meeting coming up this week. The Canadian dollar at 73 3/4 cents U.S. Bank of Canada says interest rate policy on Wednesday. The Business Center, I'm Mike.
Direct Invest with Scotia iTrade. Get started in 3 easy steps and begin your investing journey from home today. Learn more at scotiaitrade.com.
Still to come on 680 News. The COVID-19 death toll in Mexico now fourth highest in the world. India is reporting another record daily high in new cases, and lockdown continues in parts of Australia.
680 News Time, 6:44.
Marineland is getting ready for their 2020 season to provide a safe, fun, and experience for the whole family to enjoy. Wide open spaces, rides for the kids to involve, exciting animal exhibits, and great spots for families to picnic. Marineland has it all. They're opening soon and can't wait to see your family having fun at the park this summer. Visit marineland.ca to learn more about the reopening plans for 2020. Everyone loves Marineland.
Summer may be vacation time, but for many, the work still needs to get done.
Vacation?
Whether you're hitting the beach or hitting the ground running, the proven power and reliability of Ram trucks will get you where you need to go. It's the Ram Summer Clearance Sales Event with employee pricing plus 2020 Ram 1500s, along with 0% financing for 84 months
Hear the riff?
and up to $2,000 loyalty bonus cash for current finance and lease customers. See your Ram dealer for details.
This is All News Radio, 680 News.
We've got some cloud, 20 degrees in downtown Toronto, no humidity. Good morning from the 680 News Broadcast Center.
It says 60% right there, bitch.
Here's the top stories this Monday morning.
Well, maybe not Toronto and Peel region just yet, but some parts of the province will enter stage 3 of pandemic reopening this week, according to a source who tells 680 News the Premier will make announcements today. Toronto Community Centers will once again be full of kids doing crafts and playing games as the city's summer day camps kick off today, with a much smaller number of campers and public health guidelines in place. And still to come on 680 News, sad news from Hollywood. Actress Kelly Preston has died at the age of 57. Her husband John Travolta revealing
You made John Travolta. I don't know who the fuck these people are. Oh, that makes me feel like I gotta go get coffee. Holy fuck. Oh, that felt good. Oh shit, who?
And 3 to 4 goalies, he will be joining the team as well. He also says it doesn't look right now like any of his players will be opting out. The Athletic Montreal reports that multiple Canadiens players have tested positive for COVID-19. On Sunday, the team announced that forward Max Domi, who has type 1 diabetes, would miss the first 7 to 10 days of training camp so that he and the team could make a proper decision on whether or not he should play. After having their first MLS back tournament match postponed on Sunday because of 2 flight COVID-19 tests that turned out to be negative on a retest, Toronto FC will now play DC United in their opener this morning at 9 a.m. down in Orlando, Florida. In Blue Jays news, pitcher Chase Anderson has an oblique strain and is listed as day-to-day. Sports at 15 and 45, past every hour or anytime at sportsnet.ca/590.
680 News Time, 647.
Once we get it,
Have you heard about direct lending? It's more flexible than bank lending without the bank. With tougher regulations after the financial crisis, traditional banks have cut back on lending to homeowners. With a home equity loan from Capital Direct, the money that you could use is a simple phone call away. Whether it's home renovations, college tuition, or you just want to pay down taxes, Capital Direct can help. Go direct. Call Capital Direct today at 1-800-NEW-CAPITAL to see what's available for you.
CapitalDirect.ca.
At Rogers, we believe that we can all make more possible. More for our communities, more for our country. It's why in our 60th anniversary year, Rogers is doubling down on our partnerships with Food Banks Canada, Women's Shelters, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and many other community groups to make them all
Right now, we gotta figure out a way to get the bag open so we can get your heart filled.
Mexico and India, parts of Australia remain locked down. We continue our coverage of the coronavirus pandemic with 680's Laura Harvey, here live with the latest international
Now give me a shot when dinner's ready. If I'm lucky, I may be back to Florida. I'll get this thing open if I have to use dynamite.
35,000 people in Mexico have died. That is
there it goes.
And the instrument will not achieve penetration. Do not be alarmed. I mean you no harm. You know who I am? Michael. I am he. Don't come any closer. There is nothing to fear. There is no belligerency in me. I have a gun. This rifle is loaded. That is a weapon? Yes. It can bring an end to consciousness? Easily. It is not my intention to cause any fear. But you have. You killed my dog today. The creature threatened me, and I did not intend to. I did not realize how weak it was. A simple mental probe, and I regret the occurrence. Haven't you ever seen a dog before? They are images.
White niggas don't know what a cat is, dog.
There are no dogs or animals where you come from? There is barely enough room for the higher forms of life. We have never learned to curb our reproductive powers, it seems. Well, where is this place you come from? This is Earth, the third planet from the sun, I think. I know. It is my home too. Oh, that can't be. I exist, but not of your time. Not of my time? Time runs on. There is a past, a present,
He doesn't want to be
and
here.
a future. The threads are simultaneous. Oh, now you don't expect me to leave. Fatigued from my experience, and I must return. If you will kindly give back my case to me, the one you have on the bench. It's yours? That is why I have come. It was misplaced, lost, but now that I have found it... Oh, there's no argument about it, Doctor. It's yours. I am not a doctor, not in the context of usage in your time. Well, who cares? Listen, the case was opened. I don't know how. The mechanism is faulty. I must exchange it. You did not utilize any of the contents. Well, only some of the powder and the bottle labels. Yes, I am aware. But he did a fantastic job on my arm. Look at it. Look at it, Michael. Would you believe that only a few hours ago it was a man? I am well aware of the powers inherent in the powder. But now, please, give me the case. You cannot open it, for the key is in my hands alone. Stay back. I must open it once more. Or you will. I've got to have something from it. Comprehend this. My time is far in your future. The compounds are off. Another time. Different metabolism. Evolution has caused basic changes. But the powder worked on me. It is probably the single experience. I don't believe you. Look, I'll give you anything. Money. How much do you want to open it? I shall prove my point to you.
Is it cocaine?
You must be aware of the differences in our physiognomies. You mean your face? Exactly. The lack of an aperture above the jawbone. You call it a mouth. Have you wondered then how we are communicating? I have no mouth, for we ingest our nourishment through an osmotic process unknown to you. And if I have no mouth, then how do we communicate? You are moving your mouth, and I hear. I, on the other hand, send my thoughts to you through my mind. You see this is so? Yes. Think of it in this manner. I am you in a distant time. You should be able to comprehend then that medicinal compounds of my time may not be of benefit in yours. The difference is it? Yes. Our two great. You were lucky to have chosen
like 35 for Friday and for the weekend.
My wife will die I have explained why you cannot have a open that bag or I'll kill you. I mean, I cannot help you. Comprehend. An unusual accident took place. A time warp misfunctioned, and I found myself in your time. The accident must have disturbed my balance, and I wandered from this place, leaving my case behind. We have communicated sufficiently. I feel joyous that your infirmity responded to the powder, but I cannot allow you to maintain possession of the case any longer. stuff.
I took a vow to protect it with my life. I must fulfill that vow. Give it to me.
I've told you for a while. You don't realize it, but you told me how to open this. You said the key is in your hand. It'll open to your handprints. Now your right hand on the bag. Nothing. Or maybe both at once. There. I'll try one on each side. Yes, I've got it. Judy, it's open. Come on, Michael, wake up. Come on, you're okay. Piece of ice on your cheek should help. That's it. Easy now. 5.
I wonder how many vanity plates there are.
How do you feel?
I thought your aim was to extinguish me.
No. I only wanted one of those heart attack pills. You see, my wife Judy has a heart condition. Well, she had a heart condition. Thanks to you, we don't have to worry about that anymore.
This other person, your wife, she ingested the dosage.
Just like a flash. After she saw what happened to my arm, she had no hesitation. If I could only have just one of each of those different pills, I wouldn't have that.
I have communicated to you that I am not a physician, yet you have refused to accept the truth. You insist I am practiced in medicine because I possess a case apparently similar to physicians of this time era.
Well, you can't blame me for thinking that.
You will not communicate. You will listen. You poor man. Poor individual. Let me inform you of my profession.
He's a killer.
I am proudly the highest ranking exterminator.
Exterminator?
Precisely. I communicated earlier that in my era there is barely enough room for all who inhabit the planet. Therefore, exterminators trained to eliminate painlessly and quickly.
Oh, no.
The pills, as you refer to the compounds, are each a dose of death. The case is full of death. The tools of my trade.
This is the edge of death.
The container of first aid powder which I keep for my personal needs. Fortunately for you are now thoroughly healed now. But the rest...
but the label, the tuberculosis, a heart attack, cancer.
The compounds act within a matter of minutes, bringing death, of course. Instead of resorting to the crude murders of earlier, more primitive eras, it is more comforting for the family to report that one of its members has died of cancer, heart disease, or any one of a dozen other diseases.
Murder.
Elimination. Murder. My case.
You must have an antidote. If you make a mistake, there must be some way you...
I'll not commit it. I am sorry for your bereavement.
What the fuck is this?
I shall depart. Be assured. There was.
So again, these headlines just crossing the finish lines now and getting to U.S. stock futures, which have scenes.
Naturally, there are those who are skeptical. A man from another time who conversed through telepathic means? Much too fantastic. Alex Harper would look with infinitely sad eyes and agree that it was too much to expect anyone to believe his story. Except for one thing, and he would bare his left arm. Explain this, he would say, and if you...
Optimistic. The Nasdaq's at a record in pre-market trade, and again, Dow futures up by 180 points. Elon Musk is now the world's richest, or seventh richest individual. He is surpassed Warren Buffett, who used to be number one, number two, or number three, depending on the year. But Buffett has underperformed with his Berkshire Hathaway holdings this year, and Tesla, which of course Elon Musk is the head of, has seen nothing but gains. Tesla opens the day about $1,500 a share.
into record territory. It's already up 3% this morning and up by more than 40% in just the past 10 days. Canadian dollar starts the day at 73.75 cents US. That's steady. Gold at $1,813 an ounce is up $10. At the Business Center, I'm Mike Apple.
Thank you, all frontline and healthcare workers. You get invoice pricing and don't pay for 6 months on all new cars. Shifting to drive at Hyundai.com. Looking for a Hyundai? I'm your guy. Book your appointment today.
Yes, it's your English teacher, Mrs. Nelson.
Uh-oh.
You've been using the word approve quite a lot lately.
True, but
You know there are alternatives like accepted, authorized, confirmed, validated. Let's try. I own my home and would like a loan.
accepted-ated.
Alpine Credits, where homeowners get endorsed, confirmed, permitted, allowed, okayed, and approved. Some conditions apply. Alpine Credits. Fiscal license 12616.
Frontline and healthcare workers, it's our turn to help you. Receive dealer invoice pricing. Don't pay for 6 months on all new cars. Looking for a Hyundai? I'm your guy. Visit Hyundai.com for a location near you.
Now, 680 News regional weather conditions for Seneca.
For 6 colors, right? If you get a choice, right? Fuck it. For one whole model year, make them all neon pink. If they don't like it, don't fucking choice. Next year, make them fucking neon green.
It's CFTR AM Toronto. It's 7 o'clock.
It would be funny. You'd get covered and everything. For some reason, Hyundai's decided to only sell.
Here, Paul Coates and Catherine Chatay.
And then you'd know what model year the car was from what color it was. Is that the 2021? No, I painted it. It's actually.
And today, the Premier is expected to announce that parts of the province will move into stage 3 of
No
reopening.
creativity. Oh, Ford didn't do that. Neither did Chevy. Oh.
Toronto summer camps kick off today, and 150
They don't want to keep getting caught selling drugs. Chevy, Ford, Dodge, all three got caught selling drugs.
and daily screening for COVID-19 symptoms.
Florida breaks the U.S. coronavirus record for most
That
new cases in
methamphetamine,
a
180
day.
kilos, was that not a Ford,
15,000.
whatever the
The
fuck
Maple
it's
Leafs will
called now?
start up phase 3 with the training
Wasn't it?
camps
I thought it
opening
was
up today. As Toronto FC may
The
finally get their
Laurier
first
guy, I
game
thought he was
action
working
in
for
Orlando
GM.
this morning's Sports
They're all-
15. Your stock futures up with more talk of a fast track for a
What's it
potential
being got?
COVID-19 vaccine. PepsiCo surpassing earnings estimates with its quarterly update. Business at 26.
680 News time, 7:01.
Traffic and weather together on the ones brought to you by your local Ontario Subaru dealers. Here's Eva Francescanos.
Well, we've got a new problem right now. If you're east on the 401, east of Weston Express, right lane is blocked with a stalled truck. It's quite jammed up from approaching Dixon all the way through to east of Weston, where we have those problems. If you're on the eastbound Gardner Expressway, still have some delays from Parkside to Declan. Eastbound QEW still seems to be in pretty decent shape at this time. And looking at the westbound side of the 401, we had some delays from about, looks like west of McCowan now over to Kennedy, alternately express and collector lanes. Southbound 404, John Valley Parkway, that's still going from the 401 to south of Lawrence, and southbound 410 coming out of Brampton. The volume that we have through there, that has eased off, and it looks like the eastbound 403 express ramp to the 401, the construction may have cleared. I'm not seeing much of a delay as you make your way through there at this time. And southbound on the 400, no issues to report. It just looks to be moving quite well. The minor delays that we had onto the eastbound 401 ramp, they have eased off. Ontario Subaru dealers are finding all new ways for you to safely shop for a Subaru. Call or connect online. Your local dealer is here to help you every step of the way. Next report is at 7:11. Here's a check of the forecast now with Jill Taylor.
Comfortable temperatures for us today. The guaranteed high 27, 16 for the low, and just a slight chance of some showers or isolated thunderstorms today. Right now, we've got some clouds, 19 at Pearson, 20 at 680 News. Light wind out of the northwest. A guaranteed high 27.
680 News time, 7:02.
People in parts of this province could be headed back to gyms and movie theaters as early as this week. An announcement is expected today on which regions will be the first to enter stage 3 of pandemic recovery.
680's Jamie Pulfer is here live setting the scene. Jamie.
Yeah, Catherine, we've been talking about stage 3, the reopening plan like a broken record for a while now. Finally today, Premier Doug Ford is expected to reveal what parts of the province will enter this next phase of reopening and what it all means. Will this include resuming service inside restaurants and bars? Will movie theaters and fitness centers reopen? What about easing restrictions on public gatherings? University of Toronto infection control epidemiologist Colin Furness talks to City News about the timing and if this is happening too quickly.
Because we're in the middle of a hot, humid summer, and because COVID is clearly showing seasonal properties, I think we can get away with quite a bit. Whether that's a good idea is a separate question.
A senior government source tells 680 News this will be a regional approach, much like Stage 2, which likely means that hotspots like Toronto and Peel region will remain in a holding pattern and will be among the last to move into Stage 3. Now, the government hasn't really been specific about what this next phase will include, but has said that restrictions will remain on large gatherings like concerts and spectators at sporting events. Reporting live, Jamie Pulper, 680 News.
680 News Time, 7:04. Fewer workplace Zoom meetings will be interrupted by requests for snacks or the soundtrack from Frozen 2 starting today. Children are heading back to day camp as the city launches Camp TO. 680's Kevin Meisner's outside the community center this morning in the Shepherd and Don Mills area and joins us live with a look at camp.
Can they canoe, swim, sail, swing on a trapeze, or do anything useful? There's no. What are you doing?
Toronto's annual summer camp day program.
Warehouse that costs like $100
just inside the front door of the Parkway Forest Community Center here near Shepherd and Don Mills tells Camp TO kids to wash their hands even before entering the screening for symptoms and having their temperatures taken. That's going to happen on a daily basis before programming even gets underway.
Idiots argue with me all the time about how to spell my
name. He's happy that Camp TO is operating, but he wonders if physical distancing during the activities is even going to be possible.
Trust with your kids,
right? Their kids are going to be kids.
The daycare is a daycare, 24/7 year round, right?
You know,
these idiots just got hired.
The socializing, they need to have that
socializing. The requirement is for 16.
32,000 kids in Toronto between the ages of 6 and 12 will be taking part in Camp TO activities for 8 weeks at 150 locations across the city, including this one. Any child showing symptoms will have to get tested for COVID-19.
It's useless because any child showing symptoms probably ate something fucked up or they're not going to
along with their lunches, water bottles.
Let's see how long we can stay in the sun without drinking water today.
Face masks daily to wear for any indoor activities.
If they're actually showing symptoms, it's probably not COVID.
680 News Time, 7:06.
You're not going to see.
No humidity in the forecast today following last week's sweltering conditions. Our meteorologist Jill Taylor says it'll be a comfortable start to the week. It's the first weekday morning that we're starting out without a humidex reading for weeks, so that's a good thing. A little more comfortable for us. Due to slight chance of showers or thunderstorms. The average high 27, and that's the guaranteed high today, 27 degrees.
Yeah, that'd be
Jill
on
says
school
we'll see a
starts, isn't it?
similar high tomorrow.
At
but
some
humidity
point in the
will
beginning
return
of
starting
September,
Wednesday,
school
and by
starts,
Friday, the
right?
humidex will be near 35.
680 News Time, 7:06. The World Health Organization has recorded another record increase in the number of COVID-19 cases over a 24-hour period at more than 230,000. 66,000 of those cases were recorded in the U.S. Florida setting a record for the largest single-day increase in the U.S. for positive cases, recording more than 15,000 on Sunday.
Dr. John Lenches at Broward Health Medical Center in Fort Lauderdale says the demographics are different with the latest cases of COVID-19.
This wave that we're in now,
it's like people are stunned that things are not always the same.
Are a little bit younger. Leah Carpenter is a nurse and the CEO of Memorial West Hospital in Pembroke Pines.
I'm busting at the seams in the emergency room. I'm busting at the seams inside the hospital. I'm busting at the seams in terms of the ICU.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis promised the medication remdesivir would be coming in soon.
Remdesivir, they are shouting your name in the
680 News Time, 7:07. Toronto FC will try to get in the game today that they were supposed to play yesterday. 680's resident footy fanatic Mike Leach has the details.
TFC will get back on the pitch this morning at 9 against DC United after having the game postponed yesterday due to a positive COVID-19 test for a DC player and an inconclusive test result on a Toronto player. Sports in a time of pandemic is about rolling with the punches for Reds GM Ali Curtis.
Nothing's really normal, and if anything, the normal is kind of uncertainty. And, I think that there's a roller coaster of emotions and events that kind of tend to happen over the last 3.5 months.
All players were retested yesterday and produced negative test results. The 2 players whose initial results forced the rescheduling of the game will not play today.
Negative's bad, right?
A second consecutive negative test.
That's
Unlikely.
60 News Time 7:08. The federal conservatives are planning to call Justin Trudeau to testify before a parliamentary committee on his government's decision to have We Charity administer a $900 million student program.
At the time,
the conservative finance Peter Polyev says Trudeau must answer key questions.
Anyways, it's not being a lie, stealing trick, this is why your mom fucked
through the staff in his office.
You're all fucked
come out of his own
up.
hand.
Your wife
Members of
got
his family
COVID,
who had been
and
paid by
nobody else around her got it. You
We need to hear from him directly on these
You wouldn't take the
questions, because
test
only
to
he
prove
has
that
the
you didn't
answers.
have
Only
it.
he knows
14-day
came
self-isolation.
The deal with We was
You wouldn't take the
canceled.
test.
We had previously paid Trudeau's mother,
Why the
Margaret,
fuck does she
about
get COVID? She had to be alone
$250,000
with somebody at some
jobs,
point within
while
2
his
meters,
brother
right?
got
But
$32,000.
nobody
Charities released a
that
full-page ad in several
everybody knows
papers
she's
today
supposed to.
saying, quote,
She's
"We
well
have made
washed.
mistakes that we sincerely regret.
Not like
It has led us
washed,
to
like
more
nutritional,
closely
you know,
examine
just
our own internal
try
structures,
running up on the
governance,
Prime Minister's
and
way. You
organization."
don't fucking
A man
get
shot outside the
disappear. They won't
suburb
even
town
look at
center on
papers.
Friday has died in hospital.
bags.
26-year-old Jordan Marcel was found suffering from a gunshot wound to the abdomen at the entrance of a store just after 1:30 Friday afternoon. He was rushed to hospital where he died of his injuries yesterday. No suspect descriptions have been released. Police did say a dark-colored SUV was seen leaving the area.
60 News Time 7:10. The name change for the Washington Redskins may be hitting a temporary snag.
Out with the old and offensive. The announcement today of the name change for the Washington Redskins may be a cliffhanger. The Washington Post reports while the Redskins name will be retired, the new name won't be immediately revealed. Sources tell the paper the replacement name can't become official yet because trademark issues are pending. Native American tribes and other organizations have lobbied to drop the Redskins name.
So because you keep claiming that you killed all the Redskins is to be a talk, you can use Redskins without us being able to register.
This is 680 News.
We've all been through a lot of emotions this year.
Never seen the native brand?
Boredom, fear,
Look real close. It's a
self-reflection,
registered
and much more.
trademark.
But if one of the biggest emotions for you has been love, maybe it's time to consider an engagement ring from Spence Diamonds. It may seem crazy to propose now, but these are crazy times. And if you've grown closer despite your cooking, blanket stealing, and midnight noises, you can handle anything together. Spence Diamonds, open now in Bond, Scarborough, and Mississauga with COVID safety protocols.
680 News Time 711.
Traffic and weather together on the ones brought to you by 407
Then you want to kill
ATR.
shit. No, I don't want to. It's going to my blood. You know, my dad stabbed the guy
now.
down
If you're
there.
east
And
on
the
the
whole
401
fucking story
just
just repeats
east of
that.
Weston in the Express, we've got the right lane
You look
closed
like a
off. That's
criminal.
all
He's
because
a
of a
cop.
stalled
So, you know, my
truck. Tow trucks are on the
cop.
scene.
Why the fuck you
Eastbound
talking about?
401
You
is
keep
quite
saying
jammed
nigga.
up
You
as a
don't like
result
black people.
from
I'm
east
black.
of the
That's simple stuff.
427
I go to a
all the
ring
way
with
through
sweet,
to
please.
east of Weston, both in the
26
Express and
days.
collector
No
lanes.
heat.
On the westbound 401, the collector ran to the
Well, we
403
don't control the heat.
signaling for construction at this
Somebody
time.
controls the fucking heat.
Southbound 404 Don Valley Parkway is busy from the 401 to south of Lawrence. And also, if you're on the westbound 407, the ramp to McCowan, we now have one lane closed off for construction. East 403 Express ramp to the 401. Great news, the construction through there has cleared away.
Did she just literally one lane close for construction?
And looks like we might have some more good news.
Yeah,
Just looking at the eastbound 401 east of Weston.
Then it's Russia.
In the Express,
And there is no radio
has just
in the
cleared
car.
away. I'm watching the final
Russian
vehicle
radio
leave the scene, so
station.
East
Even though
401
hit
east
you
of Weston
imagine that you
Express.
know what is
All
coming.
the problems there, they have cleared away. 407 ETR is helping
Like your
communities
weather
respond to the
reports in
needs of
America,
isolated
right?
seniors, food banks, and those seeking mental health and employment assistance. Visit 407etr.com/road to recovery. Next report is at 7:21. Here's the forecast now with Jill Taylor. It's a little more comfortable for us today. The humidity is not really significant today. You may get some showers, isolated thunderstorms that move in at times from the north. But Toronto, most of the GTA should stay dry today. The guaranteed high 27. For tonight, just a few clouds and 16, and it looks great tomorrow, mainly sunny, very comfortable 27. That's the average high. Right now, we've got just some clouds around. It is 19 degrees at Pearson, 20 at 680 News. Our guaranteed high 27. 680 News time 7:13.
Now the Scotia iTrade Market Minute.
Over to Mike Ethel at the 680 News Business Center. Mike.
Hey, Catherine, good morning. We are looking right now at a sizable market rally again with Dow futures up 210 points on headlines coming from a pair of big drug companies working on potential COVID-19 vaccines. The companies are Pfizer and BioNTech, which have received FDA fast-track approval to speed up testing on 2 potential vaccines after
speed-up testing. What does it mean?
From phase 1
I know we're saying
and
just going
phase
to wait
2
12 months,
clinical trials will move to phase 3 with 30,000 volunteers, potentially as soon as this
What are you going to do to these poor guys?
Statements by the companies quite promising, saying if they are successful, they could be looking at 100 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine by year's end.
You're going to give a whole bunch of people this vaccine.
The markets accelerate here on this
year,
potential.
2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, you're going to call these people up. You're going to name the captain that side to that they get like a free medical check. So monitoring this is always done in a country that goes in that healthcare.
The price for oil is down 74 cents this morning, $39.82 a dollar. The Canadian dollar right now up a fifth of a cent, 73 3/4 US. At the Business Center, I'm Mike Ethel. Direct invest with Scotia iTrade. Get started in 3 easy steps and begin your investing journey from home today. Learn more at ScotiaITrade.com.
Vaccines aren't tested for efficacy
on 680 News.
at all
We weren't sure if this day would actually come, but here we are.
They cannot
the
work,
Leafs start
so they won't
camp
test them.
Today. 680 News Time 7:14. Hey Ontario, our community is opening again, and the experts at Provision are committed to meeting your eye care needs safely with cleanings between all exams. Right now, they're offering 40% off lenses for adults and free lenses for kids with frame purchase. And they direct bill most insurance plans. Arrange your family's eye exams at provision.ca. Valid prescription required. Valid at participating Canadian locations. Taxes not included. Some restrictions may apply. See store for details. Offer ends 12/31/2020. Eye exams available by the independent doctors of optometry located at or next to Pearl Vision.
Oh, let me explain how to shop for an all-new Subaru. Get a pen and paper to write this down. Go online, underline that, and stick it on your fridge. Because when you search for an all-new Subaru, there will be an all-new ways. Especially
Stick it on
if
your
you're new.
fridge, and
Connect
underline
online
that,
or
and
whatever
strike
for
it out
everything
and
you need.
highlight
Your
it
local
and put a
Subaru
box
dealer has
around
your
it.
back. With great
Put a
finance
title
rates,
and
whatever they are, hashtag crushing it.
Find all new ways to safely shop at your Subaru dealer with rates from 0.5%. This is all news radio.
Not mind your hair is too straight.
Mix on the way today for the GTA with a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms. Comfortable guaranteed high of 27. Good morning from the 680 News Broadcast Center in downtown Toronto. I'm Paul Cook.
I'm Catherine Jette. Here are the top
How come you
stories
don't
right
do
now.
focus with books?
Dining indoors, gyms, playground equipment are all among the possibilities. Premier Ford announcing today what pandemic restrictions will be lifted in stage 3 of the province's reopening plan. Under detailed COVID-19 safety protocols, the city's scaled-down summer program for children, Camp TO, kicks off today. And coming up after sports.
A record daily number of new cases in India. Mexico now has the 4th highest COVID-19 death toll and growing concern in Hong Kong where they're battling the 3rd wave. Time now for 680.
Quasi-M back. Quasi-M back. Quasi-M
The
back.
Leafs will be bringing between 27 to 30 players into their bubble when the team resumes play in August, according to GM Kyle Dubas.
Et il y a des militants contre l'itinérance qui dénoncent cette décision de la ville d'Oshawa qui a engagé une firme de sécurité privée pour patrouiller son centre-ville.
Oui, Marjorie, la Ville a approuvé un contrat de 100 000 pour 3 mois avec la compagnie CDN Protection Limited. La motion avait été proposée par un conseiller municipal, Bradley Marks, qui a notamment souligné l'augmentation du nombre de personnes sans domicile dans le centre-ville. Les militants décrivent cette situation et croient que la Ville aurait mieux fait d'utiliser cette somme d'argent pour des traitements contre les dépendances et d'autres formes de soutien. Le contrat avec la firme de sécurité a débuté le 1er juillet, mais les militants demandent quand même à la Ville de revoir sa décision.
Merci beaucoup, Annie. Et vous pourrez à la maison trouver plus de détails sur la 3e étape du déconfinement sur radiocanada.ca/Toronto ce matin. Et Elvis, on a parlé beaucoup la semaine dernière de cette vague de dénonciation d'actes d'inconduite sexuelle dans le milieu du divertissement ici au pays, surtout au Québec. Et la liste de personnalités publiques visées par cette vague de dénonciation sur les réseaux sociaux s'allonge encore une fois.
Oui, le rappeur Maybe Watson du groupe À la Claire Ensemble est le dernier à faire face à des allégations. Sur Facebook, À la Claire Ensemble a annoncé qu'il rompait ses liens avec le rappeur après avoir été mis au courant d'une histoire qualifiée d'inacceptable. Maybe Watson a présenté ses excuses sur sa page Facebook et a reconnu que sa conduite avait été tout à fait déplorable. Donc, il se retire de toutes ses activités publiques et affirme entreprendre une thérapie.
Merci beaucoup, Elvis. 7h18 à la météo. Il fait 19, température ressentie 24. C'est confortable ce matin. On prévoit 27, 40% de possibilité d'averse tard ce matin et cet après-midi. On pourrait aussi avoir un orage en après-midi, mais des températures donc confortables, comme je le disais, autour des normales de saison à 27, température ressentie en après-midi 30.
Pour réécouter nos entrevues, rendez-vous sur l'application audio ou sur notre site web radio.
You said 106 and then 30. What the fuck did you just say?
Il y a 3 missions d'exploration spatiale vers Mars qui vont être lancées dans les prochaines semaines, presque en même temps. On en parle ce matin avec Robert Lamontagne, coordonnateur du Centre de recherche en astrophysique du Québec et astrophysicien, à l'Université de Montréal. Robert Lamontagne, bonjour. Bon, alors les gens qui nous écoutent ce matin se demandent peut-être ce qu'on cherche sur Mars qu'on n'a pas encore trouvé. Qu'est-ce que Mars a de si spécial qui fait en sorte que des puissances investissent autant d'argent pour explorer cette planète-là et qu'il y a 3 nations, 3 puissances spatiales qui en ce moment se lancent là-dedans?
Mars, c'est la planète qui ressemble le plus à la Terre dans le système solaire. Et donc, c'est un environnement où on pense on sait qu'il y a eu de l'eau en abondance dans le passé, et on pense qu'il pourrait y avoir de la vie qui s'y est développée. Évidemment, des formes de vie relativement modestes, là, sous forme de micro-organismes, mais on espère détecter pour la première fois de la vie extraterrestre. Et donc, c'est l'intérêt de la planète. De l'étude de cette planète, et la prochaine vague de sondes et de robots qui vont se poser sur Mars devrait nous rapprocher de la détection de la vie extraterrestre si elle existe sur la planète Mars.
Et si elle a existé dans le passé. Donc, ce sont les Émirats arabes unis, la Chine et les États-Unis donc, qui se lancent presque en même temps dans cette mission. Selon vous, qui d'entre eux a de meilleures chances de réussir la mission et de récolter le plus d'informations ou d'échantillons?
Si on regarde les 3 missions, la mission des Émirats arabes unis, c'est une sonde en orbite autour de la planète qui va avoir comme objectif surtout d'étudier un peu comment l'atmosphère de la planète Mars a évolué. Et donc, elle n'est pas spécifiquement dédiée à la détection de la vie. Du côté chinois, elle est
Waterbed in the road. Waterbed in the road. Waterbed in the road.
Black box flight recorder is due to be sent to Paris, where investigators will finally be able to examine it. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Oh, we've been doing this for years. They only work for like a day. They've been telling us that for 45 years. You would believe it by now. The black box is probably like just a piece of wood spray painted black.
East of Weston Express and collectors with a problem test clear through there. We have a new problem though, southbound John Valley Parkway, south of York Mills.
Another question, why doesn't the black box float?
Installed vehicle that's causing a slowdown from the 401. And on the westbound QEW at Woodson Church, a left lane still closed for construction. Southbound Spadina ramp to the westbound Gardner, it's partially blocked because of a stalled vehicle, no real delay through there. And on the westbound 401, seems to be moving quite well. We just have that ongoing construction, the west 401 collector ramp to the 403, 410. It is still a signal lane. Again, that is all because of some road work through there. At this time, it's moving quite well. I'm not seeing too much of a delay as you approach that construction. John Valley North Toyota is ready when you are, with new protocols in place to ensure the safety of their customers and associates. Check out their in-store specials at DonValleyNorthToyota.com. Next report is at 7:31. Here's a check on the extended forecast with Jill Taylor.
Well, it's a lot more comfortable for us today. The humidity is not really a factor. It needs 60%. To be
it's horrible.
5 over the current temperature before things start to get a little more uncomfortable. And we'll notice that more so for midweek.
No, but that's based on the relative
Friday
you can't do math
as far
that
as
way.
weather goes, yeah, you may notice some showers, thunderstorms that move through from the north. We've got a weak disturbance, but
Most areas will stay dry today, 27 the guaranteed high, 16 for the low, and sunshine tomorrow, 27. Wednesday, sun and cloud with that increasing heat and humidity. Right now, 19 degrees, mostly cloudy at Pearson, 20 at 680 News. A light wind out of the northwest. Our guaranteed high today, 27.
And because we made the 680 News weather guarantee over the weekend, our jackpot increases to $5,900. Coming up at 7:30, we'll find out today what will be in stage 3 of the province's lifting of pandemic restrictions. 680 News time, 7:23.
You've been diagnosed with depression and can't work. Your insurer advises that your depression is not serious and denies your claim. What are you going to do? Who can you call?
I'm going to punch him right in the goddamn face.
416-661-4870. And don't worry about up for legal fees because there are none. At my law firm, my team of lawyers only get paid when you get paid. And before you call, you should always remember that there are no bad questions. 416-661-4878 or on your cell phone at pound LTD.
We work for you.
From talking to the newsmakers
To getting the answers to what you need to know about COVID-19.
and answers about your job and finances.
If you have a question, ask it at 680news.com/answers.
680 News gets the answers.
We're in this together.
680 News, working for you. This portion of 680 News brought to you by Appliance Canada. Tributes are pouring in for actress Kelly Preston, who died after a private battle with breast
de Mars, mais elles viennent d'un peu partout de la surface de Mars et elles ont des âges variés. Donc, c'est intéressant pour étudier la planète Mars. Mais ce que l'on voudrait, c'est identifier, et c'est l'objectif de la mission américaine, c'est d'identifier les roches les plus prometteuses, de les garder en réserve et on les rapportera. Il y aura certaines roches qui seront analysées sur place, mais évidemment,
Tell their employer.
Well, the organizer of the rally, she said hybrid is actually more dangerous than full-time in classroom because on those days, those kids may have to be in daycare.
Yeah, so you're just causing as much mixing as possible.
I think part of what's been missing from a lot of this, discourse from the jump is that we cannot open the economy without ensuring that kids have a place to go, right? Because parents aren't going to be like, oh, just play in the street, little Jimmy, you'll be fine. While they're out and working a 9-to-5 job. So
crime reports on
until this point, I think parents have been biting the bullet and have been doing what they needed to do. But we're going to be speaking to someone a little bit later on in the program about this. And if you have a ton of women, and this is what it's looking like, that are feeling the brunt of this, moms are feeling the brunt of this. What do you think is going to happen? A bunch of them are going to opt out of the economy if they need to. They're going to do whatever they have to do for their kids, and that's certainly not good for our numbers.
Yeah, they're saying we just want a plan. And the Toronto District School Board's agreeing with. They want the government to reassess this 3-stage or this 3-option theory. Where there's going to be hybrid, there's going to be staggered days. I can't even remember. I know Lecce is supposed to come out, I think, the first week of August with some more concrete idea of what's going to be happening the day after Labor Day.
And around there, you don't fuck around.
Yeah, and then the question becomes, should we really be going about opening bars more, like looking at the example that we've seen in Montreal, public health, having to basically tell anyone that's been to a bar since July 1st to go get tested? Is this the kind of thing we should be prioritizing? In British Columbia, for example, it was pointed out by a reporter there that they had actually opened up strip clubs before they had opened up public libraries. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, because people go into strip clubs. No,
it makes no sense whatsoever.
Oh, you know how to make money. Books are made of paper, which holds the virus for 14 days.
I think they did.
What is strip clubs have? Brass rails?
I thought that they did too.
I thought they had a...
Interestingly enough, with or without nausea and vomiting. So in our screening at the hospital right now, if you come in with fever or cough or shortness of breath or loss of smell or taste or unexplained nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea, we assume you're COVID till proven otherwise and test you. And it turns out that a significant number of people do have tummy problems triggered by the COVID virus, which is not unexpected. We've talked about the fact that we can find the virus in people's bowel movement
is behind
in their
stomach.
stool, and the risk of that forming right that when you flush that flume in the bathroom. So it isn't unexpected if we find it in the gut remains, as it were, that you would have gut symptoms like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. Again, the key thing being if you can't keep up with your liquids, you're dehydrated or a lot of pain.
Anybody that tries to talk like a little kid when they're explaining important fucking scientific, medical, or political shit is full of shit. Oh, it kind of makes sense that it's in there because it's no, that's not. You just tried to equate everything that comes out of your body going to come out of there, stupid.
Watching this week. Well, we've got an OPEC meeting coming up and a decision on Canadian interest rates, both of those midweek. So those will move the price for oil on the Canadian dollar. The dollar starting today at 73.75 cents US, up a fifth of a cent. With the Business Center, I'm Mike Upton.
Online grocery delivery service. It's Voila by Sobeys. Fresh lettuce.
Voila.
Juicy peaches.
Voila.
Packed safely by robots, delivered by teammates. From a warehouse, not a store. With the food you actually ordered, no letdowns. To your door in 1 hour delivery windows.
Voila.
Try it online at voila.ca. It's fresh, it's reliable. It's Voila by Sobeys. Your groceries delivered just like that. See website for details. As more local community businesses and services reopen, and with gatherings increased to 10 people, we must continue our efforts to protect each other.
That's another part of the
Practice
false
physical
narrative.
distancing. Save 2
If businesses are going out of business, how are more open? Why do they keep saying more and more and more things are open? Everything's already open.
If you're worried you may have COVID-19 or have been exposed to the virus. Inside or out, stay safe, save lives. Visit ontario.ca/coronavirus to learn more. Paid for by the Government of Ontario.
Right now, 20 degrees cloudy in downtown Toronto, 680 News Time, 7:30.
Number one for news in Toronto. This is 680 News.
Here are Paul Cook and Catherine Chattay. Good morning. It's Monday, July 13th.
Here's what's making news right now.
Stage 3, finally, with the Ford government set to reveal that parts of the province will move into this next phase of pandemic reopening this week, with Toronto and Peel region expected to be held back.
Welcome to summer camp. Please line up for COVID-19 screening and wear a face mask. That's the reality in Toronto as Camp's summer programs kick off today for kids ages 6 to 12.
A 26-year-old man has died in hospital 2 days after he was shot in broad daylight outside Scarborough Town Center.
Actress and wife of John Travolta, Kelly Preston, has died.
I don't know what the fuck that is. Oh, she was in this? And she was in that? Haven't you seen this? And haven't you seen that? No, I see weirdos. You exercise in the direct fucking sun when it's 40 degrees. Now you're exercising in the rain. What the fuck are you proving? Oh, I'm just gonna go to traffic, isn't it? Fuck, that's all they're gonna tell us about those shootings. The one guy died. If you die, you don't have privacy rights here, so that's when the names get released. If you live, they won't say nothing about nothing. They won't say the hospital,
Black bandana, black and green bandana. 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 Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. 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 I'm that gang shit, I'm that we don't play shit. Let it spray shit, plus it ain't okay shit. Let it bang shit, let your colors hang shit. On that crazy shit, chop the spit and flame shit. Know you hate shit, know you meant to date bitch. We done made it, off the block we skated. Massachusetts, made its way to New York State. Puzzle piece game, we can take this whole country. One block at a time, bricks and halves, quarters, dimes. Flip it one more time, stacking paper, godless crime. Facts are shit, get dealt with on the real real quick. Extra clips, Blasting through the tube. Black bandana, black and green bandana. 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 Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. 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 Tony Montana, you ain't got your shit on us now. Throw up children in the car because we get no fuck. Throw up your flag, throw up your signs and represent. Play with the crew, make KT guns slit your neck. We dangerous like Buster Bus in 97. We aiming bust and you wanna stairway to heaven. I'm about to life, you get the fact I'm fucking white. I got that heart that's soft, I put that fucking white. In my kitchen, serving beats, feeding addiction. My money straight, this life I leave the fucking bitchin'. I wave from flags to black and green like LA Crips. But we ain't them, just pussy, cause can't hear it, bitch. Black bandana, black and green bandana. 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 Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. 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 Black bandana, black and green bandana. 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 Black bandana, black bandana, black and green. 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 Black bandana, black and green bandana. Black bandana, black and green bandana. Black bandana, black and green bandana.
I don't believe it actually complained. Don't complain.
Like I'm the last of a dying breed. Twin hammers look like the Siamese. I got that beating from the Japanese. My French girl wave, you can remind them, make a mac and cheese. It is what it has to be. I'm killing all who's acting me. I have to see the rich, and I swear, what's it financially? Like who we frontin' for? They flying like there's a trampoline. These bitches couldn't marry a guy. It was a Magdalene. I shot like a little bro with Tagalog. It's these instrumentals we got with bragging on. It's Rosewood, beer, rock, class, riches with Dragon on. The nigga with the gate and Sega with double dragon on. The Megatron, landing in Lebanon. He was slapping it back and forth like a tetherball. Used to live on French Street, right in the Esplanade. Bitches run the ship and make us feel it like espionage. You know that's what it's set for. Like why you niggas say protect your neck for? Chopping in shit so we win. Like connect for the cylinder, always a spin. I'll connect for it right into your dome when I get it out the chest to drawer rapper. When you go on tour, it's all music. Maybe when we go on tour, it's all shootings. Like all the shots got kicked, I gotta shoot it. Nigga, if you talk that talk, you gotta do it. Why they try me? I wear my heart on my iron sleeve. I'm the last of a down bread. Why they try me? I wear my heart on my iron sleeve. I'm the last of a down bread. Like he just wanna go on tour and make music. But every time you go on tours, it's all shootings. The last of a dying breed. Yeah, I'm the last of a dying breed. I uppercut these fucks and they chin and they fly with ease. I bleed what I have to bleed. This blood's what I have to see. So thick, go sit with your fam. I call it Applebee's. Who the fuck trying to get stuck? Tell them ask for me. The match pack forgot to get struck. I brought the gasoline. I've never lost. I got OGs to get it back for me. Call me down, call me the crowd. Call me your majesty, God. They try to handle me, Lord. No, I don't play that. The bullets in that gray Mac A-track. They go way back. About them up. Time your mom. Look where the safe at. Put numbers on your head. You already covered in face tats, boy. Why they always trying to snake that, boy? Charlie got the defibrillator to shake that ASAP, boy. Forget about it, you turn me to Rocky ASAP, boy. I'm the last of a dying breed that wanna break that, boy. Like, you bringing all that beef to the farm, my man's branded you. If you don't get respect in the streets, I can't stand with you. They tell you a threat on the beat, your man's scamming you. The Benz is like a beast when it spins. Crash Bandicoot, pull up with a camera crew. Cannons in your face now. Anybody that's lying to us is lying face down. White boy, nice with a pen. This ain't no 8 Mile. We playing hopscotch in the spots where the body's traced out. Cause when you go on tour, it's all music. And baby, when we go on tour, it's just shootings. Drive-bys, your eyes wide shut, we gone Kubrick. See, we ain't really about all that talk, we just do shit. I wear my heart on my iron sleeve. I'm the last of a dime bread. Why they try me? I wear my heart on my iron sleeve. I'm the last of a dime bread. Like he just wanna go on tour and make music. I'm the last of a dime bread. But every time you go on tours, it's all shootings. I'm the last of a dime
MLS rules stipulate a consecutive negative tests are needed to allow the player to return. Unlikely, 60 News Time, 7:39.
Yeah, but is that scientific or is that just what they would call, oh, call me feds? Which one? Nickname.
According to reports, the Washington Redskins will be
It's on the fucking gear. What do you mean nickname?
They will no longer use their nickname that has been a part of their team since it was founded in 1932. Several weeks ago, a letter signed by 87 investors and team shareholders worth a total of $620 billion was sent to team sponsors asking them to stop doing business with the franchise unless the name was changed. Here in Canada, similar conversations continue to be had regarding the CFL's Edmonton Eskimos, who recently lost a sponsorship deal with Boston Pizza after a Twitter user called out the restaurant giant for not standing up against racism.
Good. Americans don't know what the fuck to talk about. We're from Boston, so we're Italian.
City News Time 7:40. It was a violent weekend in the city. 2 people
You
killed,
want to
7
eliminate
others
the
injured.
stories
and a
about the
number of
Eskimo
shootings.
dog the
A
same way you want to
26-year-old man
eliminate
was shot
the
outside
stories of the
Scarborough
Beatles of
Town Center on
1932.
Friday. Died in
That's when they
hospital
list
yesterday.
the
He's
last
been
Beatles
identified
is
as
dying.
Jordan
What a fucking
Parcell.
coincidence.
Later that night, a drive-by shooting near Jane and St. Clair sent 5 people to hospital. A 20-year-old man from Scarborough was killed. On Saturday, a man reportedly driving an Uber was one of 2 men shot in Etobicoke, suffering a life-altering eye injury, and a shooting in the Junction yesterday also sent a man to hospital.
This is 60 News.
Do you need money right away? Are bills piling up? Home reno expenses? Get a loan from H. Williams Pawnbrokers on Church Street. They're not like your bank. They're a licensed pawnbroker since 1950. Loans are guaranteed for 1 year with no monthly payments. No payment needed. Bring your valuables into their sanitized store and walk out with cash.
I just want to bring my shit in and come back
Look for
in
the
2
big
weeks and
red
have it
pawnbroker sign,
desanitized.
145 Church Street, north of Queens.
Never
60 News Time, 7:41.
Time for 60 News. Traffic and weather together on the ones for Luxottica. Here's Eva Francescanos.
Well, right now it is still busy if you are using that eastbound 401 from east to the 427 all the way through to west in both in the express and collector lanes. And then on the eastbound Gardner Expressway, a bit of a delay through Jameson. Westbound side of the Gardner West of Savannah, great news problems there. They've all cleared away. If you're southbound on the Don Valley Parkway, it is quite slow set 404 TVP from Sessa Finch all the way through to Lawrence. Westbound 401, the collector ramp to the 403, 410.
You just go jog in a circle around the building.
Expecting slowdowns through there. And it looks like we have some delays now on the westbound 403 just as you approach the 407. I can't spot a problem on the cameras, but it is slow west 403 just as you approach that 407 ramp. After that, westbound 403 moves a lot better. And then no issues if you're using the southbound or the northbound 400. Everything is moving quite well. ProVision is open to care for you and your family, and they direct bill most insurance plans. Arrange your eye exam at provision.ca. Next report, 7:51. Here's the forecast with Jill Taylor.
We've got quite a bit of cloud right now, but we'll get into some sunshine today, too. We've got a light northwest wind. It will pick up, become quite breezy. It's a fresher feeling day today.
And we also have some very light showers that are to the north that'll sink to the south and could affect us, but most areas will stay rain-free today. Guaranteed high 27, that's seasonal. And for tonight, very comfortable. A few clouds, 16. Tomorrow, sunshine at 27. Right now, mostly cloudy, 19 degrees at Pearson, 20 at 680 News. Our guaranteed high, 27.
680 News Time, 7:43.
Now the Scotia iTrade Market Minute.
Over to Mike Apple at the 680 Business Center. How are things shaping up there, Mike?
It's good, Paul. We've got Dow futures now up 225 points, and it really started to
You said that like you were reading
it
first.
Another pharmaceutical company called BioNTech talking about getting fast-track approval from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration on tests for a potential in fact, COVID-19 vaccines. They're working through the process here under this Operation Lightspeed, which the Trump administration set up to speed up the certification process for any potential vaccine, and markets are keying in on that this morning as a positive. We also have Tesla at a record here. It's up 6%.
People give me an injection, white
trade this
people,
morning at
take
$1,640.
blood or anything,
Apple's up
every
another 1%.
fucking time if
The
it's a
dollar's
white
up by
person.
a
And they'll tell me as they're doing it. If I go, ow, or whatever, they go, oh, sorry, like they're trying to emote with me. They're pretending to sympathize with me. And then they'll explain, oh, well, since it's going to hurt a lot, I'm going slower. And I say, so you're prolonging it more. And they go, no. And I say, yeah, you're making it take longer because it's going to hurt longer. You can't do that to me. It's literally torture. It's literally torture. To prepare for the pain you already know you're going to get, and then make it take longer, and then tell you as it's happening, oh, by the way, I'm making it take longer. Only white people do that to me. Every fucking time. People that make the page of my blood test results disappear every fucking time.
Families to picnic. Marineland has it all. They're opening soon and can't wait to see your family having fun at the park this summer. Visit marineland.ca to learn more about the reopening plans for 2020. Home sweet home.
People are putting time and energy and money into their homes right now.
There's no better place to put it.
And as a result of all that effort,
yes,
a lot of junk needs to disappear.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK.
We make junk disappear. All you have to do is point.
You won't just be saying home sweet home anymore.
You'll be saying extremely very sweet,
big, open, spacious,
sparkling, they get a kick out of this because
1-800-GOT-JUNK.
everybody in medicine in the last 200 years, all it is they have an obsession with killing things and cutting open dead things. There's nothing about healing anyway. They don't study healing anything. It's not in there. Drugs, not in there. Vaccines, not in there.
Good morning.
Viruses and how they spit them out.
Anyway. Downtown Toronto, I'm
as they're doing their thing, they'll be like jiggling the fucking plunger, trying to get you to jump on. Yeah, they do shit like that. They think it's fun.
Pandemic reopening. A source telling
They will argue that a drug that causes suicide, not suicidal ideation, suicide, it is causing you to have suicidal thoughts you've never had before. They will argue it's better for you than not being on a drug. Oh, well, your mental health is more important than your physical health. After what they just said to me about the suicide.
15,000 cases.
Well, I don't care if you could die at any moment from the simple temperature in there, the fact there's no ventilation. I'm more concerned about your mental health. Yeah. Her name is Ahmed, which means she's Caucasian and a white supremacist.
NHL's story of return to play begins. Toronto announcing their roster yesterday, which features top prospect Nick Robertson. And Kyle Lewis says that as of right now,
the British said that you stole the word Indian from us, so you must be criminals and thieves. I know what to say about black people.
On Saturday, Habs defenseman Carl Alsner announced he was opting out of the return to play. Meanwhile, Montreal says forward Max Domi will miss the first 7 to 10 days of training camp as the two sides figure out whether or not he should play. Domi is a type 1 diabetic. Toronto FC squares off against DC United this morning in their MLS Hispanic Tournament opener. The two sides were supposed to play yesterday, but questionable COVID-19 tests for single players on both teams postponed it. The two players were retested and came back negative. Kickoff this morning set for 9. And reports say the Washington NFL team will announce today they are retiring their old nickname and that a new one is
I've never seen a brown Iranian. They're all pale like me.
Stadium rights
they got black hair. You think that's the same as black skin, not even close.
Controversial moniker. Sports at
They call
15
an
and
Iranian
45
black.
past
They'll
every
either
hour.
laugh
Morning
or
time at
punch you out.
sportsnet.ca/590.
6 City News Time, 7:48.
One's a pair of probably black.
Masks, gloves,
Anywhere else in the world,
sanitizer,
all the
and more to
Persian
keep your
black.
family,
This fucking
employees,
stab me.
and your customers safe. Pharmacy Go is here to help protect you, your family, and your business.
So when you call me nigger, I'm supposed to laugh it off.
To hospitals and nursing homes. And now you. If Canada's frontline workers can trust Pharmacy Go to keep them safe, you can too. Pharmacy Go also fulfills corporate orders. Buy in bulk for your business and save. Visit pharmacygo.com. That's pharmacygo.com.
It's a great time of year to take on those projects you've been thinking about. You see your neighbors doing landscaping, repainting, trimming the trees. Capital Direct can get you started and finish your project with a home equity loan. Could you use $30,000, $40,000, or even $400,000? With rates near historic lows, there's never been a better time to try Capital Direct. You'll have the funds in your bank account within days. Call Capital Direct today at 1-800-NEW-CAPITAL. CapitalDirect.ca.
6 City News Time, 7:49. India, Mexico, and South Africa. Our coverage of the coronavirus pandemic continues with 6 City's Laura Carney, who joins us live with the latest international developments. Laura. And Catherine, India has recorded its highest 24-hour jump in COVID-19 cases yet, with more than 28,000 in a single day. The latest jump brings the total positive cases in that country to just over 878,000, the third highest in the world after the United States and Brazil. The death toll in Mexico continues to surge, now fourth highest in the world, with the country seeing its COVID-19 death toll surpassing 35,000, overtaking Italy. In Hong Kong, 52 new cases of COVID-19 being reported, 41 locally transmitted, in what health officials are calling the third wave. As a result, schools have been closed, residents being told to work from home. CNN's Christy Lou Stout with the latest from Hong Kong's head of communicable disease.
And she called the situation, very serious. And she also said that it is worse than the situation in March. That was when the second wave hit Hong Kong. She said it's worse because of two reasons: the number of locally transmitted cases and the fact that they can't contact trace the source of this new surge.
And in South Africa, a curfew will be imposed.
It'll be your fucking fault for bringing out a new law in the middle of a pandemic, stupid.
Mandatory in all workplaces, vehicles, and common closed areas as the number of cases in that country continues to rise.
To 23, then tell them where your real father.
To a
It's
total
not
of
going to work.
276,000. Reporting live, Laura
Russian
Carney,
kids all
6
flip
City
the
News.
fuck out.
6 City
They
News
all
Time,
think they're British.
7:50.
They all
Fans
think
are
they're
mourning
white.
the death of
But
actress
they're
Kelly Preston.
Kelly
cool,
Preston has secretly
Asian
been
white.
battling breast cancer. Her husband, John Travolta, writing on Instagram that Preston died after a courageous 2-year fight. Best known for roles in Twins, Mischief, and Jerry Maguire.
Jerry, there is a sensitivity thing that some
Go
people
out there with
have.
contact
I don't
tracing
have
now.
it.
Preston appeared in over 60 productions. Her last was the 2018 movie Gotti, in which she co-starred alongside her husband. The two were married in 1991.
Gotti, what a fucking joke. A guy from the city. I don't know Vito Rizzuto. Anyway, I need coffee. I'm gonna go find this in the corner. Where's my fucking